Chapter 707. Oh my God, such a big thing is the headquarters. How much is it worth? The Black Star Corps won't rule the Garden Star system, right? Just as more than 100,000 players were looking up at the sky with a dumbfounded expression, everyone's interface vibrated as they received a message at the same time. Frenzied Sword came back to his senses and hurriedly opened the interface to look at the notification. A look of surprise instantly appeared on his face. 10 years. First chain mission requirements. Head to the nearest Black Star Corps satellite fortress. Reward: 15,000 EXP, plus 300 Black Star Corps favorability. This mission is a chain mission. Han Xiao had been observing when the players would come online. This was the mission that he had issued to all the players through the faction interface. It was to guide the players and guide them to understand the new version of the spaceship, so that they would not be confused and run around. Han Zhao's wording was very formal, making it look like a newbie mission in the new version. Anyway, in the eyes of the players, all the missions were issued through the interface. The players had just entered the new version and were eager to understand the changes in the environment. This mission suddenly became the light in the darkness, like a carrot dangling in front of donkey. It made their hearts itch, and it attracted the attention of all the players. This is a guide mission in the new version. Just follow along, and you will know how the storyline develops. Trust me, it will not be wrong, Pork Bun said confidently. It's actually a guide mission for the Black Star Corps. Mad Blade's eyes sparkled. This must be hinting that the Black Star Corps will play an important role in the storyline of version 3.0. No one rejected the guidance mission of this version storyline. Many players already had a goal in mind. Next, they just had to go to the dock, take the spaceship, and board the huge planet fortress in the sky. Just as everyone was thinking this, dozens of black dots the size of sesame seeds suddenly appeared in the direction of the Black Star Corps headquarters. They descended at a speed visible to the naked eye and rapidly enlarged. Surprisingly, they were a fleet with the Black Star logo floating above the heads of more than 100,000 players. The stable anti-gravity devices did not cause any strong winds. Many of the players present were stunned. At this time, the bellies of the dozens of warships opened up and released traction beams toward the ground. At the same time, the people on the warships spoke through special loudspeakers. Their voices echoed throughout the sky of the entire city. All Black Star Corps members, please board the ship. I repeat, all Black Star Corps members, please board the ship. These were the spaceships that Han Xiao had sent out to pick up the players. The players present did not expect the Black Star Corps to send someone to pick them up, and they were shocked. This was Ghidorah's planet, and they actually made such a big fuss and did not hesitate to affect the entire city. Was the Black Star Corps so grand now? All sorts of signs indicated that the Black Star Corps in their minds was no longer the same as before. Many of the players could not wait to find out what had happened to the Black Star Corps 10 years later. Everyone boarded the spaceship one after another. Only then did the fleet close the bellies of the spaceship and turn back. After boarding the spaceship, the players began to move. They all wanted to find NPCs on the spaceship to ask for information. However, the journey from Planet Golden Gate to the headquarters was too short, and they would arrive in less than half a minute. Thus, the players who wanted to ask for information could only give up. The Black Star Corps headquarters in the porthole continued to enlarge. As they got closer, they could finally see the details of the satellite fortress. The surface of the fortress was filled with defensive measures and all sorts of strange devices. There were even some players who saw thrusters. Rather than calling it a satellite fortress, it was more accurate to call it a satellite warship. The professional players gathered together and looked through the porthole. Mad Blade could not help but click his tongue. This thing looks so powerful. Compared to a fortress, it looks more like a weapon. I remember that in the previous version, a flagship that was over 10,000 meters long was already very terrifying. Who would have thought that an even more shocking galactic weapon would appear in the new version? I don't remember seeing such a thing in the previous version, Hao Tian said. I wonder if it was created by Black Star. Maple Moon was curious. Very quickly, the fleet entered the spaceport. More than 100,000 players swarmed out of the spaceport, and occupied a large area. They looked around and curiously observed their surroundings. The moment they arrived, the players could finally feel the bustling atmosphere. NPCs with names on them came and went, and they were all army members with the Black Star insignia on them. It was many times livelier than the base on the surface. Is this the new headquarters? Are there no NPCs here to welcome us? What should we do next? Just when the players were hesitating, the interface changed once again. The first round of 10 years had been completed, and Han Shao immediately released the second round of the mission. Second round, mission introduction. In the past 10 years, the situation in Galaxy has changed tremendously. You need to study the deeds of the Black Star Corps in the past 10 years. Mission requirements. Update and activate the internal program of the Black Star Corps. Watch the video, History of the Black Star Corps, required. Reward, 25,000 EXP, plus 500 Black Star Corps favorability. Han Shao had been secretly observing the movements of the players in the base. He did not need to show himself, and could guide the players remotely in the form of a mission. It was even more natural and stealthy. That's right. This is definitely the background introduction of the new version. I knew it. There will definitely be a version hint, just like in version 2. So, how convenient. I thought I would have to find the clues myself. Mad Blade's eyes sparkled. He was just thinking about how to find out what happened during the version update, and he did not expect this guidance mission to directly reveal the information that they wanted to know the most. The mission requirement was to update the internal program, which was the Philip subroutine. This was installed by all the members of the Black Star Corps. It had functions such as checking one's resume in the Army, checking one's accumulated merits, browsing the faction store, and summoning airdrop supplies. More than 100,000 players took out their communicators and opened the subroutine. This time, there was finally a response. Philip's virtual image turned into a 3D projection and floated above the screens of the communicators. Checking coordinates confirmed. You're in the Black Star Corps base. Permission has been unfrozen. You have obtained permission to update the database. Please scan for verification. Before the version update, the Philip subroutine did not support the 3D projection function. The players could only tease Philip verbally. However, at this time, Philip already had a virtual image. It was a little boy the size of a finger and looked as cute as a girl. Many female players' eyes turned into sparkling stars, and they could not help but touch Philip with their fingers. Although they did not feel like touching a real thing, Philip felt like he was being poked in the face. He covered his face with tears, and his innocent eyes seemed to be saying that it hurt. His 3D projection had a virtual sensing function. At this moment, a large number of female players, including Maple Moon, were instantly captivated by Philip. Wow, how can he be so cute? *T, this is the feeling of giving birth. He's so cute that my heart is about to melt. Cute, I miss you. How Tion squeezed Philip's head and crushed it into a pile of light. The next moment, it turned back into a 3D projection and shivered in the corner of the screen. How Tion thought about it and said, "There is no damage information. Looks like he can't be used as a pet." Are you the devil? Frenzied Sword's mouth twitched as he watched. Everyone teased Philip for a while before Philip notified them that the update was complete. The players then opened the internal program, and Philip returned to the screen. Permission reactivation complete. Welcome back to the Black Star Corps. Please watch the next lesson. A ray of light shot out from every player's communicator, forming a virtual 3D screen that started to play a video. The title was The History of the Black Star Corps. This was the lesson that the mission required them to watch. After Han Shao set up the reactivation program, the lesson would be played automatically. Not only the players, but every member of the Black Star Corps also had to watch this lesson. It was a teaching material used to establish the culture of the Black Star Corps, and the creator was Rosalind. In his previous life, the players basically had to dig up the background of the version updates themselves, which was very inefficient. Thus, Han Shao decided to make use of his advantage and use this method to directly tell the players the history of the version updates so that they could understand the situation as soon as possible. This would save them a lot of trouble and also increase the players' sense of belonging to the Black Star Army. The players' spirits were lifted. They wanted to know what the Black Star Corps had become. They all quieted down and stared at their respective virtual screens with full concentration. The Black Star Corps was established in 688 of the Galaxy calendar. It has been 17 years since it was established. It was once known as the Black Star Mercenary, and the founder was Black Star, Han Shao. Rosalind's voice sounded. The screen showed the dark silhouette of the Black Star, standing at the front with officers standing behind him. Just at the beginning, Bun Hit Dog's eyes lit up. It feels like a blockbuster. After talking about the founding time and leader, Rosalind changed the topic and directly introduced the scale of the Black Star Corps. The screen showed the 2D star map of the Garden Star system. The top left corner showed the year 688, which was when the Black Star Mercenary was first established. In the vast star map, an extremely small green that represented the power of the Black Star Mercenary at that time. Then, the time in the top left corner started to roll slowly. The small green dot moved around and finally found its base. It started to expand into a small, irregular green area. As time passed, it slowly expanded. This way, it showed the development of the Black Star Corps. Not only were the 100,000 players at the headquarters watching, but the players in the other bases were also watching the lesson. These were the changes that the players had experienced in version 1.0 and version 2.0. Now that it was shown in this way, everyone was watching with great interest. As the green area slowly expanded in the Garden Star system, the time in the top left corner finally reached 10 years ago. It was the time before the version update. All the players focused. From now on, it will be 10 years that they had not experienced. It will be a change that they did not know about. At this time, the perspective of the video suddenly zoomed out. It expanded from the Garden Star system to the entire Colton Star cluster. The star map was instantly magnified hundreds of times. At the same time, the green area that was originally limited to the Garden Star system expanded to more than half of the Colton Star cluster. All the players present were stunned. As the date in the top left corner jumped, the area of influence expanded crazily. If the expansion speed of the Black Star Corps in version 2.0 was like running, then 10 years after the version update, the expansion speed was like sitting on a fighter jet. The date finally reached year 705. 90% of the entire Colton Star cluster was green. At this time, Rosalind's background voice sounded. Now, the Black Star Corps has completed its transformation. Its branches are all over the Colton Star cluster, and its business includes war, planet mining, and all kinds of mercenaries. At the same time, it is a long-term ally of the Amethyst civilization, the ruler of Colton. It is a partner of dozens of star system civilizations, and has almost 20 Calamity-grade supers under its command. It has hundreds of thousands of battleships and the mining rights of hundreds of resource planets. It is already one of the top large armed organizations in the Shattered Star Ring. Madblade and Pork Bun had their mouths wide open. All the players around had the same expression as them. They were completely dumbfounded. Originally, when he saw the army headquarters, Madblade had already tried his best to overestimate the strength of the Black Star Corps after 10 years. However, he did not expect that he had still underestimated the Black Star Corps. His imagination had limited him. This feeling was as if the village factory that he worked for had suddenly become one of the top 500 companies in the world after a night's sleep. How is it that the moment I turn my head, you're already in the sky? Everyone was extremely curious about the Black Star Army's deeds in the past 10 years. They could not wait to skip to the end of the video. Just what happened when they were not around that allowed the Black Star Army to become a star cluster level organization. Chapter 708. The scale of the Black Star Corps shocked the players. The video continued to play, and the scene changed. Finally, it began to talk about what the players were most curious about, the specific deeds of the Black Star Corps in the past 10 years. In Galaxy Year 695, the Red Empire expanded, codenamed Crimson Tide. Due to its influence, the Shattered Star Ring was in turmoil. The Clint Kingdom ordered the Bloodshed Land to invade the Amethyst civilization. The secret war broke out, and the Black Star Corps joined Purple Crystal to fight for them. The war lasted for 10 years and has yet to end. During this period, the Black Star Corps fought hundreds of battles, clashing with the bloodshed land time and time again, making a name for itself. Rosalind introduced the background of the Secret War, and everyone was shocked. Crimson Tide? Isn't that the name of the version? So, it really refers to the expansion of the Red Empire. At the end of version 2.0, Black Star had vaguely revealed some information. It turned out that it was really the hidden information of the next version. The Black Star Corps actually got involved in the war of a star cluster civilization. This meant that the main storyline of version 3.0 should be related to the Secret War, many people guessed. Following this train of thought, the expansion of the Black Star Corps definitely had something to do with participating in the war. They should have made a fortune from the war. However, they only guessed half of it right. The following content instantly ignited everyone's passion. In this war, Leader Black Star revealed his potential as a Beyond Grade A and crushed all the high-level combatants of the enemy. He is the one with the greatest hope of becoming the next Beyond Grade A of the Shattered Star Ring in the past few decades. At the same time, the Black Star Army expanded greatly under his leadership and was roped in by Purple Crystal and dozens of star system civilizations. Finally, it reached its current scale. As the leader of the faction, Rosalind introduced Han Xiao in detail. She explained his terrifying battle record and the important influence he had on the development of the Black Star Corps. The players understood what the video meant. The reason the Black Star Corps could develop to its current level was 90% because of Black Star. If not for Han Xiao's Beyond Grade A potential, the Black Star Corps would not have been able to stand out even if they participated in the war. It was Black Star who had expanded the army to this extent in just 10 years. The players came to a sudden realization and instantly understood the crux of the matter. Beyond Grade A, after 2 versions, they already knew that Black Star was very strong, but they did not expect that Black Star could still break their old impression and give them a new surprise. Beyond grade, as were the supreme beings standing at the peak of the galaxy. Black Star was a character that appeared in version 1.0, and the storyline ran through 3 versions. Now, he actually had the qualifications to become a supreme being, so he would probably be a main character in version 3.0 as well. Han Xiao had long since become the Chinese players' own NPC. Their sense of identity was off the charts. Seeing that their own faction's leader was even more ferocious than eating Viagra, the players were so excited that they couldn't close their mouths. Before the version update, countless players have been looking forward to what the Black Star Corps would become in version 3.0. They were very satisfied with the results and even felt surprised. When we weren't around, Black Star was as reliable as ever. He managed the Black Star Corps so well. It was awesome. Our captain is still the best. With such a strong leader, the faction would have an even higher development ceiling. The players' enthusiasm for the Black Star Corps greatly increased. The video continued, and Rosalind went on to talk about what the Black Star Corps had experienced in the past 10 years and what achievements they had made. Han Zhao's personal achievements were interspersed with the video. Countless times, he fought one against many, killed countless enemies, resolved assassination attempts, fought with ES God, destroyed Dark Star, and so on. The course introduced the history of the Black Star Army in a comprehensive manner. After the video ended, many of the players looked as though they had not had enough of it, because they had already seen Bun Hit Dog's Black Star series. This video gave them the feeling that they were binge-watching a drama series. They had caught up to 10 years of the Black Star Army's history in an instant, and there was a sense of epic change. This can be considered the background introduction of the new version. Why do I feel like it's more like a cutscene animation? Black Star is awesome. As expected of a growth-type faction, the future is bright, haha. The players present were still in high spirits, and they discussed fervently. The changes in the Black Star Corps shocked them greatly. After the initial shock, they were overjoyed. Since it was a good change, the players were relieved. The more impressive the Black Star Corps was, the happier they were. This was the faction that they had witnessed for 3 whole versions. I didn't expect so many things to happen while we were not around. Mad Blade could not help but sigh. Port Bun's heart ached. So much news material. What a pity. How many videos can we make with that? The video went through the history of the Black Star Corps, and the players had a clearer understanding of the faction they were in. Han Xiao had been working hard to increase the sense of belonging of the players through the deeds of the faction, and the results were remarkable. A faction with a history had a unique culture, and the sense of belonging had always been one of the important factors that influenced the players apart from benefits. Through the deeds of the past 10 years, all the players had a basic understanding of the situation in version 3.0. It could be said that under the guidance of Han Xiao, the players were adapting to version 3.0 at the fastest speed possible. This is also what Han Xiao wanted to see. The second round of the 10 years mission had been completed, and Han Xiao immediately released the third round of the mission, continuing to guide the players remotely. All the army players received a new guidance mission. Third round, mission introduction. You have understood the situation in the Shattered Star Ring. The Black Star Corps is participating in the secret war. As a member of the army, you have to make a choice. Mission requirements. Go through the internal program and accept the secret war mission. The main storyline can be triggered right from the start. Seems like it's the same as version 2.0. The version of the mutation disaster also triggered the main storyline right from the start, and the players did not have any doubts. Through Philip's subprogram, they clicked on the option to participate in the secret war. In his previous life, after the players entered version 3.0, they had to go through a period of exploration before participating in the main storyline of the secret war under the guidance of their respective factions. Now, Han Xiao had directly thrown the main storyline in front of the players, saving a lot of time. Letting the players participate in the war in advance was more beneficial to him. Originally, the way to trigger the secret war main storyline was to join Bloodshed Land or Section 0. However, Han Xiao had known about this long ago. Thus, he had used 10 years to make the Black Star Corps an important member of Section 0, connecting it to the main storyline and binding it to the faction. This way, the players did not need to join any other faction. As long as they stayed in the Black Star Corps, they would be able to participate in the Secret War main storyline. The results of Han Xiao's efforts during the version update were gradually showing. Grade S Faction War Mission, Secret War Section 0. Mission Introduction. The Clent Kingdom has invaded the territory of the Amethyst Civilization. You have chosen to stand on the side of the Amethyst Civilization. Mission Requirements. Listen to orders and repel all enemies that have invaded the territory of the Colton Star Cluster. After the mission is completed, different rewards will be given according to the mission rating. Grade S Main Storyline Mission. The eyes of the players sparkled. The main storyline missions of the previous two versions were Grade A missions. This was the first time they had accepted a Grade S mission. Han Xiao had received this main storyline mission 10 years earlier than the players. Although the Grade S mission rating would only be displayed after the mission was completed, he did not need to look to know that he had already reached the highest rating. This main storyline mission has a suffix. Does this mean that we can also do this mission in the Clent faction? Bunhit Dog was quick-witted. He deduced many things from one case and guessed the truth. In the original storyline of his previous life, the players could choose to join either Clent or Purple Crystal. Both factions had their own attractions. The Colton Star Cluster, where Purple Crystal was located, was considered the birthplace of the players. As the defending side, they had a geographical advantage. The Tyrant of Bloodshed Land was a beyond grade, a super, and had the initiative. In version 2.0 of the original storyline, the Black Star Corps did not exist. Ghidorah and Darkstar were the organizations that led the players into the universe. They each recruited a portion of the players and walked on different paths. Due to the relationship between Clent and Darkstar, a portion of the players recruited by Darkstar had joined the Clent faction in version 3.0. Furthermore, due to the influence of the Tyrant, many players chose to join Bloodshed Land. Due to the fact that Section 0 was in a passive position, there were relatively few players who joined. However, Han Xiao had already changed the direction of the storyline. He had laid a good foundation in version 2.0, squeezing away Ghidorah and Darkstar and almost all the Blue Star players. Now, the Black Star Core was the most important member of Section 0. This meant that the players were innately standing in Purple Crystal's faction. Only a child would choose. I want all of them. If they wanted to join Clint, it would be equivalent to wasting all their investment in the Black Star Core in the previous two versions. The cost of the players changing factions was extremely high, although the players did not like being forced. With the sense of belonging in the previous two versions as a foundation, Han Zhao's act of acting first and reporting later would not cause the rebellious mentality of most of the players. The beyond grade A tyrant was indeed attractive. However, just now, the players had learned that Black Star also had the potential to become a beyond grade A super. This caused the Bloodshed land to lose its core competitiveness, and the attraction of the faction decreased drastically. At least, even if the majority of the players realized that they could change factions, they would not do so because it was not worth it. Thus, it was impossible for Clint and Bloodshed Land to obtain a large number of players like in his previous life. The butterfly effect caused by Han Zhao in version 2.0 had continued to this day. However, there were all kinds of strange players, and there might be some who wanted to join the Traders Association. Han Zhao had long prepared countermeasures. In the past 10 years, he had considered all kinds of possible accidents. While the players were excitedly discussing the main storyline mission, Han Zhao no longer pretended to look at the scenery and returned to the satellite fortress. The first step is complete. Next, it's time to fertilize. Chapter 709. On the dock, the players dispersed. The guidance mission given by Han Zhao had ended, and they decided to explore the Black Star Core headquarters on their own to understand the facilities there. The players knew that in version 3.0, this planetary fortress would be their base camp. The Black Star Core headquarters was extremely large, and the players did not feel crowded at all. They quickly dispersed and merged into the normal members of the Black Star Core. Mad Blade, Hao Tian, and a few other pro players that they had good relationships with moved together. Port Bun and Maple Moon followed beside them. The group walked and stopped, observing the NPCs that they passed by while discussing the main storyline mission that they had just received. The storyline of the new version is very exciting. We actually have to experience a large-scale galactic war between two star cluster civilizations. I looked at the forums, and the foreigners from the other star fields did not receive the main storyline mission as soon as they entered the game like us. They are still exploring, Mad Blade said curiously. This is not the first time. In every version, the main storyline mission of our Shattered Star Ring appears first. This should be a specialty of ours. Twinkle Fried Rice shrugged. Indeed, it was the same for us in version 2.0. We received the main storyline as soon as we came online. The other star fields received it a few months to a year later than us. Hao Tian nodded. From the looks of it, Black Star should be a main NPC again in version 3.0. He has been through 3 versions, and all 3 main storyline missions have something to do with him. Port Bun said as he stroked his chin. Not just 3 versions. Mad Blade was excited. I saw this NPC character during the closed beta. I did not expect him to become so powerful. Port Bun's eyes sparkled. Black Star has so many scenes, and I don't think the other star fields have a storyline character like him. Only Black Star is an NPC that must appear in every version, and it has lasted for 3 versions. I feel that Black Star is probably the main character of the entire Shattered Star Ring storyline. He is the child of destiny on our side. That's right, this content is great. My next video will definitely be popular. Currently, Han Zhao was extremely popular among the Chinese players. Furthermore, the video just now had introduced his achievements in the past 10 years. This was the time when the players' interest was at its peak. Bunhead Dog felt that he could use this opportunity to make a new video for Black Star using the Shattered Star Ring main character as an entry point. In the previous 2 versions, the players had experienced many epic storylines in the galaxy. They had seen all kinds of NPCs, and many of them were popular among the players. However, until now, the NPC that left the deepest impression on the players was Black Star. Even the players in the other star fields knew his name. At the moment, Han Xiao was the most popular NPC among the players. Creating articles, videos, and fan content about Black Star was a business opportunity in the eyes of many players. The Black Star series was the work that made Pork Bun famous. It was still a must-watch series for new viewers. Since it was serialized, it had created many memes that were widely spread. Because this series had brought a huge amount of popularity, Pork Bun was the one who did the most to create the image of Han Xiao. However, because of the huge business opportunity of Black Star, there were also other video producers who saw the popularity of Han Xiao and followed the trend to create all kinds of videos about the Black Star core. However, Pork Bun had dominated the market as early as version 1.0, and he was the authentic in the eyes of the players. It could be said that the players' love for the Black Star core was largely due to Pork Bun's videos. Everyone was a member of the Black Star core, and they had seen the faction grow through their own efforts. It was made into a television series, and they were very immersed in it. Video producers like Pork Bun used the popularity of the NPCs to gain benefits, but they did not know that Han Xiao was also using them to gain benefits. No matter how strong an NPC was, they had to be spread through various forms of entertainment in order to be recognized and accepted by more players and become a popular character. The group agreed with a few words before returning to the main topic. They continued to talk about the main storyline of the new version. This was what the professional players cared about. Speaking of which, with our strength, we shouldn't be able to affect the outcome of a galactic war of this level, right? Mad Blade said. Maple Moon nodded and said seriously, I just checked. The representatives of the two sides in the secret war are the Bloodshed Land and Section 0, led by the Black Star Corps. The leader of the Bloodshed Land is called Heber, one of the 4 beyond grade, as in the Shattered Star Ring. His strength is even higher than a Calamity grade. There's no need to talk about the army. With both sides being so powerful, the number of people participating in the war is probably in the hundreds of millions. Even if all the players participate, I don't think it will have much of an impact on the outcome of the war. How Tion pondered and analyzed. If that's the case, the secret war is only the background of the new version. Our main area of activity should be the small battlefields in the war. As for the war itself, our participation will definitely not be high. I'm afraid it's just another cutscene. Twinkle Fried Rice smiled bitterly. But that might not be the case. Mad Blade's eyes turned, and seeing that everyone was looking at him, he explained, think about it. In the past 3 versions, the upper limit of our level has been continuously increasing. The level of the storyline has gone through the changes of the planet grade, star system grade, and star cluster grade. There is a stable system for the combat strength in the galaxy. For example, Grade C is the basic quality of the Black Star Troopers, and Grade B is the backbone. This system will not change because of the version updates, and our continuous increase means that our position in the galaxy, as well as our influence on the storyline, will also increase with the version updates. Now that the level cap is open to 120, the first batch of players should be able to reach Grade B. According to this theory, our importance in a new version will definitely exceed the previous 2 versions. Therefore, I feel that in version 3.0, we will be able to participate in the storyline to a greater extent, and there will definitely be new changes to the gameplay. Everyone tilted their heads and pondered. Io, this be Astra's star does make some sense. Port Bun's eyes sparkled. Can I quote this analysis? I beg of you, please be a human. Twinkle Fried Rice was speechless. By the way, although we have triggered the main storyline, how are we going to participate in the war? Are we going to follow the army's arrangements or accept missions on our own? At this moment, Mad Blade and the others suddenly realized that the surrounding Black Star Corps members were suddenly gathering in a certain direction. Their communicators vibrated as well. Philip had sent out a notification asking all the members of the headquarters to head to the headquarters square. He had something to announce. Mad Blade and the others mixed into the crowd and arrived at the square. At this moment, there was a sea of people there. The other players had also arrived and were mixed into the crowd, waiting together with the Black Star Corps members. The ground in front of them bulged and turned into a high platform. Virtual screens appeared above the square, broadcasting the scene on the platform so that the people in the distance could see it clearly. More than 20 officers of the army appeared on the platform, and many of them were familiar faces. The players below whispered among themselves. 10 years have passed, and the officers of version 2.0 are still here. How comfortable. There seems to be quite a number of new officers. Oh, is that Beauty Sylvia? *T. It's the feeling of a chicken's movement. I'm being polite. What about you guys? Humph. So what if she's a beauty? I'm a scholar. The Dragon Emperor's Liquor Club will never be a slave. The law of history tells us that licking until the end will leave us with nothing. Seeing the NPCs that they were familiar with in the previous version, many players were relieved. They habitually used Scout on the officers, but other than learning the officers' names, everything else was a question mark. All of them were extremely dangerous, and they were all capable of fighting. It was only now that the players had a first-hand experience of the Black Star Army's strength. Buzz. The space in the center of the platform rippled, and a figure appeared out of thin air. It was Han Xiao. The more than 100,000 players present finally saw Han Xiao after 10 years. He was still wearing that familiar outfit, but he was taller and had a more stable aura. Mad Blade and the others realized that many of the Black Star Corps members around them had looks of admiration on their faces. From this detail, they were even more clear about the position Han Xiao held in the hearts of his subordinates. Poor Bun turned on the camera function and started to record crazily to collect material. Including the players, countless people in the square stared at him. Han Xiao cleared his throat, and his voice was transmitted through the machine. In half a month, we will cooperate with Section 0 and launch a large-scale counterattack against Bloodshed Land. At that time, we will conscript a large number of people to participate in the battle. Other than the warriors that have already been conscripted, the army will accept applications from other members to participate in the battle. Other than the remuneration paid by the Amethyst civilization, the army will also provide additional subsidies to those who participate in the battle. The exact amount will depend on their role. Please check the announcement in the Army's internal system for more details. When they were still a mercenary group, they only needed to share the employer's rewards with the members under them. Now that the Black Star Corps had completed its transformation and become a private armed organization, they needed to pay their official members a salary. It was equivalent to raising an army. Participating in the battle was an extremely risky job, and they even needed additional subsidies. War was all about money. Luckily, the Black Star Corps was no longer the same as before. They had many ways to earn money, such as mining resource planets, selling goods, hiring, and the resources provided by the Amethyst civilization. Their assets were able to sustain their current scale. Mad Blade came to a realization. So, this is how we participate in the battle. We need to apply in the army. Only by participating in the battle can we increase our main storyline mission rating. However, we can choose to not participate in the battle. So, this is not a forced storyline mission. The players started to discuss excitedly, and the square became noisy. At this time, Han Xiao looked around, smiled to himself, and continued, I'm not sure. All participating members will enjoy a 50% discount on the various products produced by the army. In half a month, all participating members will gather at the headquarters and head to the battlefield on a fleet. If you have any questions, you can ask the sub-artificial intelligence of the Army's program. Everyone was stunned. 50% discount? 50% discount on all faction products? What the F***CK? There are actually such additional benefits. Chapter 710. Introduction. In the age of chaos, spiritual energy was exhausted. Cultivators had no way to make a living, so they degenerated into demons and fed on humans. At this time, a man with so much spiritual energy leaking out from his side naturally became the meat of Tang Sung that everyone wanted to eat. Not only did they want to eat him, some female demons even wanted to. This is a story about how one finally became a god by relying on coquettish manipulation. Chapter 711. The players present were overjoyed and could not wait to open the faction store interface. Compared to version 2.0, there were hundreds of times more faction merchandise. There were all sorts of equipment, materials, and items. Because the army was cooperating with many financial groups, Han Xiao deepened a relationship and negotiated with the heads of these financial groups to open up the product channels of the various financial groups to the army members. This was equivalent to using the products of these financial groups to fill up his own faction's inventory. He would be the middleman to earn the difference in price. This way, as long as the items were not too rare, they could be bought directly from the army store. This greatly increased the logistics ability of the Black Star Corps. Han Xiao had also integrated a large number of blueprints in the past 7 years to build up the logistics department. With the support of his strong financial strength, he had built countless military factories and assembly lines for the logistics department. He had also cultivated a group of professional talents. The independent productivity of the army was extremely high, and there were thousands of types of mechanical equipment. There was no lack of high-level rare equipment, pink equipment, and orange equipment. All the resources and equipment were provided to all the army members. As long as they had the money, they could equip themselves to the teeth. The standard armor of the Black Star Army had also been improved many times over the past 7 years. Many intermediate armor technologies have been fused into the armor with superior performance, which was then distributed to the middle and low-level army members on a large scale. It was called the Black Star Army 7th Generation Individual Armor, which was divided into more than a dozen models, including assault, defense, reconnaissance, and so on. The armor on most of the players was already outdated. Compared to the current 7th Generation armor, it was like a simple handmade product. Looking at the faction store list, the players present were extremely excited, especially pro players like Madblade and Hao Tian, who did not lack money. As long as they participated in the war, all the good items, including orange equipment, would be given a 50% discount. This was an opportunity that could not be missed. The players had accumulated a large amount of savings in version 2.0, and it was not easy for them to encounter such an opportunity to buy better equipment. The thought of being thrifty was instantly thrown out of their minds. What was the point of saving money? Wasn't it to spend it at the right time? There was no need to hold it in anymore. Without exception, all the players present applied to participate in the military operation half a month later through Philip's subprogram. Faction War Mission, Black Star's Counterattack. Mission Introduction. Section 0 is preparing for a large-scale counterattack military operation. As a glorious Black Star warrior, you are participating in this expedition. Mission requirements. Follow the Black Star Corps fleet, follow orders, and participate in battle. Reward. Plus 500 Black Star Corps favorability. Unlocking the follow-up mission of the Secret War. The players only took a quick glance before turning their attention back to the faction store. As expected, the price of everything was halved. Everyone was overjoyed and wanted to dance for joy. Han Xiao released this mission to guide the players. As he could not release the main storyline mission himself, he introduced the rewards to let the players know that after joining the war, they would be able to unlock the follow-up mission of the Secret War main storyline. This would reassure the players, increase their interest in joining the war, and reduce the number of people who chose to slack off. In his previous life, Section 0 was the one who had sent the players to join the war. Since he had left so many players behind, he had to do this job. This large-scale military operation was not suddenly suggested. Han Xiao knew that the players would return during this period of time, and he had already started preparing for this large-scale counterattack 2 months ago. He had been waiting until now to bring the players along to participate in the Secret War. Although the players had accumulated quite a lot of experience and money in version 2.0, Han Xiao needed an astronomical amount of experience to level up. It was not enough to rely on the experience that the players had accumulated in the previous version. He had to fatten the players up. Otherwise, the mission completion cards that he had accumulated would be useless. Now that the version had just started, Han Xiao could not wait to guide the players to participate in the battle. This was so that the players could complete the battle missions as soon as possible and earn more EXP. Only by increasing the spending power of the players and making the players rich together would he be able to earn more. All this while, he had always been aiming for mutual benefits. In other words, the leeks were not fully ripe yet, and he had to work hard to fertilize them. Furthermore, Han Xiao was extremely clear that with the increase in the level cap of the new version, the player's first choice would definitely be to level up. That way, the player's spending power would decrease. How to stimulate the demand and make the players willingly take out their money to spend was a difficult problem. Giving the players a 50% discount was Han Xiao's method to stimulate the players' spending power. A large number of players formed a huge crowd and left the plaza, heading straight for the logistics department. They were also browsing through the shop list to look for equipment or items that they liked. Give me a set of standard armor and a set of pink equipment. We're rich. We've struck it rich this time. I never thought that there would be such benefits at the start of the version. Is this to increase our fighting power so that we can protect ourselves in the war? Our leader really loves us. More than 100,000 players had almost filled the logistics department to the brim, and all of them had come to place orders. Other than the individual players who were buying as much as they wanted, some guilds had also started to gather their members to raise funds. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Let's gather a bit more money and buy something big. Jupiter, the president of the Guild of Gods, was excited. He was prepared to use the guild's funds to raise money to buy a few sets of mining equipment and mining spaceships. In the future, he would bring the members of the guild to mine for resources and provide a steady stream of profit for the guild. Madblade and the other professional players preferred high-quality rare equipment. They took money from the guilds of the clubs and bought pink and orange equipment wantonly. It was as if these 100,000 players had taken an aphrodisiac. Their desire to spend was unprecedentedly high as they went on a shopping spree. They carried bags of various sizes, all of which were new equipment. Although their wallets were empty, their faces were brimming with happiness. They saved half of their money. Happy. At the same time, Han Xiao returned to his office to check the financial income of the army. In less than half an hour, we earned 7 billion anus. Han Xiao was shocked. Even with the current wealth of the Black Star Corps, this was not a small amount. After calculating, each of the 100,000 players had spent an average of 20,000 anus. Although the goods were all sold at a 50% discount, after deducting the cost, this wave of profit was still a few hundred million anus. With the current productivity and inventory of the Black Star Corps, it was a piece of cake to satisfy the needs of all the players. Han Xiao did not play the trick of increasing the price first and then discounting it. This time, he really gave a 50% discount. With the technology patent, the profit was still very high even after the discount. The players were not stupid. They remembered the price of goods in the previous version. Furthermore, what Han Xiao lacked now was not money. There was no need to ruin the good impression of the players for this small amount of profit. He wanted to let the players feel the real benefits. Han Xiao's goal was not to earn this wave of money, but to stimulate the desire of the players to spend. The main reason was to empty the wallets of the players. Then, with the long-term discount, the players would have an urgent need to earn more money and fight harder. This way, they would be able to indirectly gain experience. Squeezing the wallets of the players dry could stimulate their fighting spirit. A mature leek had to learn how to fertilize itself. These players have spent all their money. It's about time to start. Han Xiao narrowed his eyes and smirked. In reality, emptying the wallets of the players was only the prelude to Han Xiao's plan. The real harvest had just begun. Logistics department, with less than 3 digits left in their savings, the players happily changed into their new equipment and felt that it was worth it. They opened a faction store again and browsed to see if they could get any more benefits. Looking at the powerful equipment that was still at a sky-high price even after the discount, many of the players were tempted. Unfortunately, they could not afford it even after the discount. They could only stop their fantasies and look away to see if there was any cheap equipment. At this time, many of them realized that the knowledge in the faction store was much more than in the previous version. Taking a closer look, many of the players were shocked. The faction store had gathered all the basic and advanced knowledge of the 5 super systems: Pugilist, Mechanic, Magic, Esper, and psychic. There was even a portion of high-end knowledge. Everyone clearly remembered that in version 2.0, the knowledge for the 5 major classes of the Black Star Core was not complete. In reality, the basic and advanced class knowledge could be gathered as long as one spent money. With the wealth of the Black Star Core, Han Xiao had gathered all the low-level class knowledge for all the classes in 7 years. He had even bought quite a number of high-end knowledge. With the scale of the Black Star Core today, there were countless members of every class. The reason they bought so much knowledge was to make it easier for them to train their warriors. However, in the eyes of the players, this had an extraordinary meaning. In order to learn their own class knowledge, the players in the other star fields had to make a good impression with their class mentors and earn contribution points from different factions. It was very troublesome. However, in the Black Star Core, they could learn the knowledge of all 5 classes. This meant that they did not need to change factions or find mentors. The class knowledge was taken care of by the Black Star Core, which saved them a lot of energy and time. This was an advantage that the players in the other star fields did not have. What surprised the players the most was that not only did the class knowledge increase, but they also did not have to spend money. In the previous version, learning knowledge required money. At this time, in the shop, learning class knowledge did not require anas, but only required contribution points and experience. Although the experience cost of learning knowledge did not change, the required contribution points were also reduced by 50%. Knowledge is free. This doesn't make sense. Why does a knowledge cost money? Didn't we lose money by buying knowledge in the previous version? Wait, I've found a reason. Many players were eager to ask Philip, and some of them opened the internal program to ask and soon got the answer. Due to the expansion of the Black Star Core, training camps were set up all over the country. In order to train the members of the army on a large scale, the exchange model for class knowledge was changed. There was no longer a tuition fee. As long as the members of the army had enough contribution points, they could apply to learn class knowledge. This system was not only applicable to the players, but also to the NPCs. It was like the Black Star Core's training course. Everyone was enlightened, and they could feel the grandeur of the Black Star Army. A star cluster level organization was indeed different from the past. Their actions were generous, and their system was perfect. So, this is also our benefit. Other than a portion of the players who felt depressed because they had wasted money, the rest were overjoyed. Does this mean that we don't need money to learn knowledge in the future? We only need contribution points? What the F***CK? This is too profitable. As expected of a growth-type faction. The benefits are great. Most of the players felt great. They could feel the practical benefits brought by the development of the Black Star Core in the past 10 years. In terms of faction benefits, the Black Star Core was far ahead of all the factions that the players had joined in the other star fields. How blissful! The 3 consecutive missions gave me quite a lot of contribution points. I can learn quite a few knowledges. I haven't even learned all the basic knowledges yet. I've spent all my money. Learning knowledge doesn't cost me anything. We can even get a 50% discount on our faction contribution points. This is such a good deal. With the thought of not taking advantage of the situation, many of the players who had saved up their potential points happily started to learn class knowledge. As the players bought these knowledges, Han Zhao's experience bar started to slowly fill up. It's finally here. Han Xiao heaved a long sigh of relief, feeling refreshed. This was what he needed the most. Removing the tuition fee for class knowledge was to harvest more experience from the players. Because this system also had to consider non-players, Han Xiao changed it to a system of exchanging contribution points for knowledge. Because for normal members, experience did not exist. If there was no requirement for contribution points, it would be equivalent to giving away experience for free. This was the bottom line of maintaining the faction system. In order to let the players use the experience that they had prepared to use for leveling up to learn knowledge, Han Xiao used the 3 missions to give the players a wave of contribution points. He also used a 50% discount to stimulate the players' desire to spend and empty their wallets. When the players had spent all their money, they would want to continue to take advantage of the 50% discount. At this time, When the players realized that they did not need to pay to learn knowledge and that they could get a 50% discount for contribution points, a considerable portion of the players would be tempted to use their experience to learn knowledge. The reason why they were tempted was because knowledge could be learned at any time. However, Han Xiao needed to harvest a wave of players' experience within a short period of time. After holding in for 10 years, he could no longer hold it in, considering that he had to maintain the value of contribution points as a secondary currency and not cause inflation. Han Xiao did not give the players too many contribution points for free. Otherwise, he would have given the players 10,000 contribution points directly to their reverence relationship so that they could learn as much as they wanted. Not only would he have taken all the players' money, but he would also take all their experience, losing both the players and their wealth. But it's good to harvest slowly. I'll leave some experience for the players so that they can quickly level up to grade B. I can't harvest all the leeks at the root. Han Xiao knew that he could not spoil things through excessive enthusiasm. Looking at the experience bar increasing at a crazy speed, he licked his lips and was touched. Chapter 7:12. Through the players' forums and the Army's internal program, the players in the other bases also learned about the discount. More than 10 days later, more than 1 million Army players gathered at the Army headquarters and chose to participate in the war. Quite a number of them fell for the promotion and handed over their wallets. Within half a month, the Black Star Army had earned a few billion in net profit, which was extremely generous. However, the players were still mainly focused on leveling up. For example, the professional players were focused on leveling up in the early stages of the version, and only a small portion of them chose to learn more knowledge. However, Han Xiao was not discouraged. When the players became rich in the future, they would definitely buy all the knowledge in the army with the excess EXP. This EXP would be in his pocket sooner or later. Just the EXP gained in half a month was already more than the total EXP he gained in the past 7 years. His efficiency was off the charts. The players happily enjoyed their new equipment, while Han Xiao happily counted his money. In half a month, he had raised himself to level 217, and he was only 3 levels away from the level 220 promotion. After this wave of harvest, the players' savings and experience were basically emptied. They needed time to recover. The players' savings are still too little. That's true. At the end of the previous version, many people went to the Pro League to join in the fun and use their experience to level up their skills. This group of people did not save much experience, so I have to fatten them up first. At this time, in a lounge of the conference room, a group of officers was shouting around the card table. Han Xiao leaned on the sofa and did not participate. He was alone and focused on the problem. After this battle, I should be able to gather enough experience for my promotion. Maybe I can level up a few more times and shorten the gap between Beyond Grade A and Beyond Grade A, Han Xiao pondered. Although he would not reach Beyond Grade so quickly, Han Xiao was quite satisfied with his current progress. The other Beyond Grade A seeds could not find a way to become Beyond Grade A and were stuck at a bottleneck. However, he only needed to level up, and he would be able to grow quickly. There was no real bottleneck. Not to mention, he still had mission completion cards. As long as he had enough experience, success would follow naturally. While Han Xiao was deep in thought, a burst of cheers came from the other side of the table. Loggy had a helpless expression on his face as he muttered, "I knew that I would definitely lose." He then stood up and left his seat. His side was completely defeated, and on the other side of the table was Reynolds. His back was straight, and his expression was serious. He slightly nodded as if he was saying, "Thank you for letting me win. Not bad. Our logistics manager has won 5 matches in a row and killed 5 people. TSK, I lost 50,000 anus. If I had known, I would have bought Reynolds. Vice Captain was tortured the entire time. His skills are too weak. A mechanic's logic is indeed impressive, but why is His Excellency Black Star so bad at cards? Teacher, someone's talking bad about you." Sylvia turned around and shouted at Han Xiao. Han Xiao came back to his senses and walked behind Sylvia with his hands behind his back. He bent down and placed his chin on top of Sylvia's head. He then looked at everyone with an expression that said, "Let me see who's talking bad about me behind my back." JPG. Because most of the officers would be participating in the battle a few days later, the backbone of the army was basically on standby at the headquarters. Just now, Han Xiao had a short meeting, and after it ended, everyone came to the lounge to play cards and gamble. They were like a group of brothers. Han Xiao refused to participate in any activities that depended on luck. Reynold was originally looking at the blueprints at the side, but Sylvia could not take it anymore after losing a few matches in a row and insisted on dragging Reynold over to vent her anger for her. Although Reynold did not like to waste time on entertainment like weighing cards, he would occasionally be invited by others to play cards, and he also had his own deck of cards. If he did not know how to play weighing cards, he would be too embarrassed to be an officer in the Black Star Corps. Although the officers of the army had great strength, when they were not dealing with matters or fighting, they had their own interests like ordinary people and liked to have fun. Since he was going to play, Reynold treated it seriously as usual. He had a strong logical ability, and his card skills had always been very strong. He had a lot of ways to play weighing cards, and after he was done with all kind of tricks, he only needed to defeat his opponents. He defeated 5 opponents in a row and did not show any mercy to his sister, Rosalind. Reynold slowly put away his cards and looked around. He was expressionless and looked extremely arrogant. "Who else?" Sylvia raised her head and nudged Han Zhao's chin. "Teacher, why don't you play a round 2? Harmon said honestly, "I bet that Black Star will lose. It's a sure win." "Sure." Han Xiao snorted. "I'll kill whoever beats me. Who wants to play with me?" No. Everyone waved their hands. "You're the boss. You're the best. We don't dare to play." Reynold knocked on the table lightly and said solemnly, "If no one wants to play with me, I'll be leaving." This time, Halu stood up and sat down across from Han Xiao. He sneered and had an expression that said, "I'll take you on. You're very arrogant. I'll let you understand what true skill is." Reynold was expressionless. "You want me to know what true luck is, right?" "Humph, strong luck is also a type of skill." Halu snorted. "It's over. Reynold's winning streak is going to end." "What are you panicking for, Reynold? Punish this be asterisk starred." Everyone was in high spirits. After 7 years of training, Halu's had finally stepped through the threshold of calamity grade. His talent was indeed better than others, and he was indeed someone with the halo of a main character. It was as though he had suddenly become grade A while playing cards. Among all the officers, Halu's was the most passionate about weighing cards, and he would beat anyone he caught. Because the victory usually belonged to the Lucky Draw Association, and Fu Ding did not like to play cards, Halu's had an authoritative position in the Black Star Corps' weighing cards world. Even the players knew that Halu's did not reject anyone. Even they could find Halu's to play cards with, and there was even a corresponding mission. If they beat Halu's in weighing cards, they would be rewarded with EXP and a chance to win a rare card from Halu's. After exchanging a few words, Halu's and Reynold officially played. Both of them had brought the Black Star Corps card deck. 5 years ago, the weighing cards had been updated. Now that the Black Star Corps was affiliated to Floating Dragon Island, the number of cards on the list exceeded Floating Dragon Island. There were a total of 8 cards, and Han Zhao's personal card had been strengthened. It had many special effects and extremely high health. It had already become a rare card. Not long after, Halu's continuously drew cards. Although Reynold's card skills were very good, he still fell into a passive position. Han Xiao suddenly had a bad taste and threw a luck curse at Halu's. "Humph, you're already dead." Halu's confidently drew cards. He glanced at it, and his face stiffened. Weighing cards could be called luck identification, and the luck attribute was the most obvious in card play. Even with 90% less luck, Halu's luck was still higher than his. However, in front of Reynold, he did not have the buff of the luck glow, and all of his moves were wasted. Reynold easily counterattacked, and the situation quickly turned around. "Yo, your luck finally ran out? Ha, to think that you would have such a day." Halu's face darkened, and he defended himself. "What do you know? This is called strategically giving up an advantage. I'll make a comeback later." The surrounding people laughed, and the room was filled with a cheerful atmosphere. Han Xiao did not join in the fun anymore. He sat back on the sofa and opened the forums to observe the recent movements of the players. Version 3.0 had only been released for less than half a month, and the players of the other star fields were still exploring. However, the information that Han Xiao revealed became important clues for the players of the other star fields to find their own main storyline, benefiting all the players. This time, the main storyline of a new version in the Shattered Star Ring was the first to appear again. The players of the other star fields were envious, and the Shattered Star Ring section of the forums was the most active. Many players from the other star fields came to leave comments and discuss. Coincidentally, Pork Bun released a new series of videos, guessing that the Black Star Core was the hidden main storyline of the 3 versions in the Shattered Star Ring. He gave all kinds of analysis and praised Han Xiao crazily, causing a lot of discussion. Han Xiao and the Black Star Core became a hot topic in the past half a month. Han Xiao glanced at the posts. They were basically all discussing his importance and past. Pork Bun gave him a sense of presence, which was not a bad thing. What made him happy was that the new episode of Galaxy Times, apart from introducing the new version, focused on the benefits of the Black Star Core based on the player's information. Coincidentally, there would be a large number of new players in version 3.0. Galaxy Times highlighted the benefits of the Black Star Core, which would attract many people to choose to be born in the Shattered Star Ring, indirectly increasing the number of players there. Knowledge can only be learned once, and those new players are a new market that can bring new benefits. Other than Blue Star, there are new novice planets in the Shattered Star Ring. I'll find some time to build a Black Star Core base there and accept these new players into the army in advance. Han Xiao pondered. Other than the core players who had been playing since version 1.0, he had to increase the scale of his leak farm. The players of the other star fields are also a huge potential market. It's a pity that the distance between the star fields is too far, and the Black Star Core cannot leave the Shattered Star Ring. There's no hope for now. Han Xiao shook his head. He had always been eyeing the players of the other star fields, but due to the distance, he could not do anything to them. Casually browsing through the posts, Han Xiao's eyes suddenly paused. A post caught his attention. The title was The Real Gameplay of the Secret War. What the hell is the real gameplay? Why don't I know about it? Han Xiao clicked on it curiously. The idea of the poster was summer night flowers, and the content of the post made Han Xiao raise his brows. The Secret War main storyline allows you to choose between 2 factions. This is something that everyone already knows. However, we are in the Black Star Core, and basically everyone was on the side of the Amethyst civilization from the start. Since that's the case, why can we still choose the Clint faction? I think that there is a hidden hint in this. The hint is that the benefits of joining Clint are much greater than staying in the Black Star Core. This is the correct way to play this main storyline. I'm not spouting nonsense. The first reason is that I've looked into the past 10 years. From the start of the Secret War, the Bloodshed Land had the advantage, and even now, they still have the initiative. They have invaded more and more regions, and according to the trend, Clint's chances of winning are much higher than Purple Crystal's. Based on the example of the Germinal Organization and the mutation disaster, I concluded that the higher the level of the conflict in the main storyline, the less influence we, the players, have on the storyline. The Secret War is a battle between 2 star cluster civilizations, and I don't think that we can decide the outcome of the war. In other words, according to the trend, Clint is the side that will win this secret war. Although staying in the Black Star Core gave them many benefits, they would fail the main storyline mission at the end, and their evaluation would be lowered. If they joined Clint, even if they did not do anything, their evaluation of the main storyline mission would increase because they won the war. The second reason is that almost no one has joined Clint, which means that the competition is very small, and they have the opportunity to obtain more resources and opportunities. On the other hand, the Black Star Core has millions of players. With so many of them fighting for kills, resources, and missions, they obviously have to put in more effort to obtain decent rewards. The third reason is the connection with the future version. According to the data, Clint's backer is the Red Empire, and the Red Empire is one of the 3 universal civilizations in the galaxy. The future version is very likely to revolve around universal civilizations. Therefore, joining Clint is equivalent to opening the ladder to universal civilizations. No matter how powerful the Black Star Core is in the future, they will never surpass universal civilizations. Therefore, from the way I see it, staying in the Black Star Core will only allow us to enjoy the benefits in front of us, but we will lose more opportunities. Maybe the benefits of the Black Star Core are a trap, and only smart people will be able to see through it and choose Clint. After reading the post, Han Zhao's expression was very strange. He knew this player called Summer Night Flower. In his previous life, Summer Night Flower was a famous person who discovered hidden storylines. He was passionate about analyzing storylines and had a good imagination, so he was quite famous. Honestly speaking, Summer Night Flower's analysis was indeed very logical and logical. His attitude of, "I am the only one who is clean when the world is dirty," seemed to be true at first glance. However, Summer Night Flower was completely wrong. All of this was purposely made up by Han Zhao. There was no hidden hint at all. If someone really believed it and went to join Clint, the consequences would be terrible just thinking about it. Han Zhao had a helpless expression. Imagination is one thing, but you still have to follow the rules. Chapter 7:13. After remembering Summer Night Flower's name, Han Zhao threw this matter to the back of his mind. This was something that was bound to happen. After all, players were explorers, and there would always be people who yearned for novelty and the unknown. Since he could not stop it, he might as well let nature take its course. Only after experiencing the elements would he know the value of a leek shed. After looking at the forums for a while, the sofa beside him suddenly shook and someone sat down. Han Zhao turned around and saw that it was Reynolds. Not playing cards anymore. Loggy dragged Fu Ding over to play. What's there to play? Reynolds cursed with an expressionless face. Han Zhao chuckled, looked at Reynolds, and casually asked, "Do you have any wishes recently? You must tell me." "No. Think about it carefully. Don't be afraid of troubling me. If there's anything, you must tell me." Reynolds had a weird expression. "Why do you ask me this question every 1 or 2 months? I'm just being considerate toward my subordinates." Han Zhao coughed. For the sake of Reynolds' perfect mechanical sense, he would ask Reynolds every once in a while and try to trigger missions. However, ever since saving Rosalind, Reynolds had not given him any more missions, which made him feel very tired. If this continued, when would he have a chance to obtain perfect mechanical sense? Should I secretly find some people to kidnap Rosalind and wait for Reynolds to beg me to save her? Coincidentally, there are talents in this area in Happy Hut. Han Zhao's eyes spun. "Your Excellency Black Star, how long do you think this war will last?" Reynolds suddenly asked. Han Zhao thought for a while and said, "To me, war is an opportunity. As long as there are benefits, the longer the war, the better. However, compared to the Galactic Civilization Wars, the scale of the Secret War can only be considered average. As long as the Red Empire and the Radiant Federation end their negotiations, Clint will withdraw their troops. According to my sources, the 2 universal civilizations will probably stop their negotiations in a few years." Reynolds shook his head. Based on the current situation, Clint's plan has already succeeded by more than half. When the Red Empire gets what they want, they will help Clint redivide the Soul Cluster and include the few star systems occupied by Bloodshed Land into the Soul Cluster territory. Purple Crystal will definitely not have anyone to help them. That's right. A civilization that wants to remain independent will have to endure this. Han Zhao did not comment. He had some thoughts, but there was no need to tell Reynolds. He paused for a while and said, "However, even if the secret war ends, the Crimson Tide will not disappear in a short time. It's like throwing a stone into water. While the water splashes, it will also form ripples that will continue to expand and will not disappear in a short time." Countless civilizations and forces in the universe had their own interests. Like a pile of matches that could be ignited at any moment, the Red Tide was like a spark that ignited their dormant desires. Once the valve that controlled the desires was opened, it would not be closed so easily. Purple Crystal also knows that we cannot let Bloodshed Land occupy so many star systems. This battle is a large-scale counterattack. The goal is to completely eliminate all of Bloodshed Land's strongholds in the Kant star system and take back control of an entire star system. This is the largest military operation Purple Crystal has undertaken since the Secret War started. Han Zhao's tone was solemn. In 2 days, the Black Star Corps would officially set off and meet up with the other members of Section 0. They would head to the Kant star system together. This time, he was prepared to give the players ample opportunity to showcase their abilities and leave all the dirty and dangerous work to the players. The main reason was to nurture the players and let them do more battle missions to earn more points. In any case, the players would not die. If they did not go to hell, who would? Furthermore, if the game was more thrilling, the gaming experience would definitely be better. If the players did not die, they would feel bored instead. Summer Night Flower stared at the players' forums without blinking, paying attention to the replies in his post. The majority of the replies made his expression turn ugly. This post was a plot clue that he had thought of with much difficulty, and Summer Night Flower was very pleased with it. The way he saw it, it would definitely wake up many confused players and lead them onto the right path, earning their respect. However, the response of the post was the exact opposite of what he had imagined. The players had already acknowledged the Black Star Army, and most of them were mocking him, calling his train of thought completely worthless, calling it a wild guess. This made Summer Night Flower extremely angry, as though his good intentions had been taken for granted. These people don't know how to use their brains at all. Summer Night Flower was indignant and argued with another player for a while. He was in a bad mood and decided not to look at the replies. When the future developments prove my thoughts, you will know who is right and who is wrong. By then, it will be too late to regret. Summer Night Flower snorted and changed the post to add this sentence. At the same time, in another part of the army headquarters, a player called Everlasting Hatred also saw Summer Night Flower's post. Everlasting Hatred had always thought of himself as a storytelling expert who liked to explore the unknown plots of others. In the Galaxy Chronicles post, he was one of the passionate chroniclers. He had even built a small guild and played with a few dozen hardcore players who were passionate about exploring the backstory of the plot. When he saw the post, Everlasting Hatred immediately felt that Summer Night Flower was right. The main storyline would not give a meaningless faction for nothing. There had to be a hidden plot on Clint's side. Everlasting Hatred made up his mind and tagged all his members in the guild, releasing the link to Summer Night Flower's post. Look at this post, it makes a lot of sense. I've decided to join Clint's faction. The people in the guild started talk. Guild leader, please reconsider. If you guess wrongly, you're dead meat. Actually, it does make some sense. Guild leader, bring me along. It will definitely be interesting. Guild leader, how are you going to join? I don't think there are any channels. I searched for information. Everlasting Hatred replied. There are news reports that Bloodshed Land is also replenishing their troops in Colton. I feel that as long as I go to the enemy's front line alone, I will have a chance to join. I can use this opportunity to change factions. This is considered a betrayal. We definitely won't be able to return to the army in the future, someone said. It's fine if we can't return. Bloodshed Land is a large faction and might not be any weaker than the Black Star Corps. Furthermore, we will have a chance to interact with the Red Empire in the future. Everlasting Hatred did not mind. This is all a guess. Who knows, they might have guessed wrongly. I don't think so. Everlasting Hatred shook his head. Furthermore, there are so many players in the Black Star Corps now. No matter how the army develops in the future, they will know. However, no one has discovered the hidden plot of Clint. If I want to play, I will play some plot that no one knows about. But the benefits of the Black Star Corps are so good. I'm not going to be a professional player. Why do I need to be so strong? Everlasting Hatred laughed. He was a player with a strong thirst for knowledge. Novel plots were more attractive to him than actual benefits. Among the players, there were many people like him. Summer Night Flower's post still had some impact. Other than those who refuted it, There were also some who were skeptical and curious about the Clint faction. Only a small portion of them were players like Everlasting Hatred. Most of them were gamblers who were interested in the benefits of the Clint faction. 2 days passed in the blink of an eye. Today was the day of the battle. All the manpower had been gathered, and the huge fleet was waiting for orders in the military spaceport of the headquarters. More than 1 million players became special soldiers and formed an independent army. They stayed on the battleships and were very excited. They were no stranger to such large-scale missions. However, every time they participated in such a large-scale mission, most of them would feel excited and nervous. It was as if they were going to do something epic together. As a faction that united all the players, the Black Star Corps gave them a sense of belonging. It was as if they had a mission on their shoulders. All the participants were in their own battleships. Logi's face was displayed on the virtual screen of every battleship. He was talking to all the members. This was supposed to be the job of the faction leader, but Han Shao felt that Logi was a genius when it came to mobilizing morale. Thus, he decided to let Logi, the vice captain, do it. Therefore, everyone had no choice but to listen to Logi read the script in a monotonous tone. We will die sooner or later. The only difference is whether we die today or tomorrow. Morale. 20. No matter how strong or weak we are, we can't win against death. Life is just a process of slowly rotting away. Everything you do is meaningless to this universe, including this war. Whether you win or lose, it has nothing to do with you. Morale. 40. However, even though we know that the outcome cannot be changed, we still work hard. Even though we know that life is more precious than anything else, there will always be people who take the risk. Even though we know that we are only insignificant chess pieces in the war and can be disintegrated into dust by the ion cannons, nuclear missiles, and annihilation beams, we are still willing to take the risk and fight. Why? Morale slowly recovered. Because money. Morale instantly fell to 0. Only with money can you enjoy life. Only with money can you not compromise with others. Only with money can you solve problems easily. We are all warriors, and fighting is how we earn money. Do you lack money? Then pick up your weapon and kill the enemy. War is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to earn money. Every enemy has a price tag. How much money you can earn will depend on how many enemies you kill. Special effect triggered, profit stimulation, morale plus 80. Those fake slogans and beliefs would only make the army members scoff. After all, the secret war was a conflict of interest for the Purple Crystal Civilization, and it had nothing to do with them. They were fighting for money, and the best way to mobilize them was to tell them the truth. It would be better to tell them how much an enemy was worth. Countless players looked at each other. They had thought that they would hear an impassioned speech. They did not expect it to be so realistic. Black Star, you have changed. But we like it. Han Shao held back his laughter and hurriedly kicked away Logi, who still wanted to say more. If he did not follow the script, the morale of the team might really be gone. Han Shao coughed and said with a deep voice, "All troops move out." Rumble. The next moment, the surface of the Black Star Corps headquarters slowly opened, revealing a large number of spaceports. Tens of thousands of battleships flew out from the spaceports and lined up neatly outside the headquarters. The fleet accelerated and entered hyperdrive at the same time, turning into tens of thousands of streams of light and disappearing into the boundless universe. The passers-by on planet Golden Gate stopped in their tracks and looked up. They could see tens of thousands of meteors streaking across the sky and flying into the distance. Bloodshed Land Headquarters, Planet Heber. Your Excellency Tyrant, there is news from the front lines. Section 0 has moved out in full force, and their target is the Kant star system. Black Star has also moved out personally, and I have already arranged for troops from other star systems to reinforce them. The staff officer of Bloodshed Land, Jode, looked at the mountain-like Heber and reported respectfully. Heber replied indifferently, indicating that he understood. He then asked, "Has Black Star not grown yet?" Jode hurriedly said, "It has been 7 years, and Black Star's strength has not changed at all." Speaking of this matter, Jode could not help but heave a sigh of relief. Back then, Black Star had been in the limelight for a while, as though he could become a beyond grade A at any time. However, 7 years had passed, and Black Star had not broken through yet. His popularity had decreased by a lot, and a portion of the organizations no longer paid attention to him. Every beyond grade A seed was a genius, but they would all disappear after a short period of commotion. Black Star was no exception. It turned out that he was no different from the other beyond grade A seeds. Heber shook his head and was somewhat disappointed. He had been waiting for Han Xiao to grow. He wanted to wait for Han Xiao to become a beyond grade A super before killing him. This way, he would be able to use the record of killing a new beyond grade A super to increase his deterrence and influence to a whole new level. 7 years ago, the news of Clint colluding with ES God had caused a rift between him and Clint. However, both sides were allies and had the same goal. Therefore, this small conflict would not affect the Bloodshed Lands plan to continue fighting for Clint. I overestimated him. Heber only felt that it was a pity. With his status, killing a beyond grade A seed would not bring him any benefits. Jode could not help but ask, "Your Excellency Tyrant, Black Star has not made any progress in the past 7 years. Will he suddenly break through the limit and become a beyond grade A super?" Heber looked down at him and slowly said, "Before the primordial ones appeared, the Calamity Grade was the strongest individual in the universe. It has been like this for countless years, and generations of geniuses have never touched the threshold of beyond grade A. It's not that easy to break through the limit of a beyond grade A super. Compared to talent, luck is more important. After all, after becoming a beyond grade A super, basically a new species, Jode had heard rumors of beyond grade as a new species more than once. He was secretly curious about where the huge gap between beyond grade, as in calamity grades, came from. However, it was clear that the tyrant did not want to tell him. Jode could only suppress his curiosity and change the topic. Then, does Black Star have a chance to become a beyond grade A super? Maybe after a few decades of exploration, he can become a beyond grade A super, Heber said with a deep voice. However, Clint's plan will be completed in 2 to 3 years, and the war will end very soon. At that time, Black Star will die in my hands. He won't have the chance to live that long. Heber's patience was limited. He had made the decision back then that he would only wait for Black Star to become a beyond grade A super until the end of the Secret War. Chapter 714. Constar System, Star Zone 4. An enormous fleet was waiting in the void of space. Its size was comparable to the Purple Crystal Army or the Clint Supreme Fleet. Both of them were the official fleets of star cluster civilizations, and 2 enormous flagships that were dozens of kilometers long were the core of the fleet. They were built with Purple Crystal's military technology, and their exterior was made of a super polygonal dark purple prism crystal that looked like a man-made purple diamond. Blue-gold energy patterns flickered within the crystal, and psionic energy flowed through the vessels to cover the flagships, giving them extremely strong defensive capabilities. They could also shoot out super-compressed psionic energy annihilation rays from every corner of the flagships at any time. The Star Diamond flagship was the signature model of the Amethyst civilization. It was built with the Gemini star as the furnace and the Amethyst civilization's specialty material called Dark Stream Crystal. It was produced in the Purple Crystal No. 3 warship factory and was used as the war weapon of Section 0. Every time Han Xiao saw these 2 huge things, he almost drooled. They contained the crystallization of a star cluster civilization's engineering technology, but it was a pity that these flagships were not for sale. Furthermore, the Amethyst civilization's technology was more focused on crystal magic and rune magic. They did not have much mechanical technology and were not compatible with him. After a long-distance hyperdrive, Han Xiao brought the Black Star core fleet to the gathering point. There were already millions of battleships waiting for orders, and they were all the troops of Section 0. After 10 years of war, Purple Crystal had invested a large amount of resources and used the military factories to support Section 0, causing the size of every member's fleet to expand greatly. The Black Star Corps' flagship was a spherical armed satellite base. Based on its appearance, Han Xiao had given it a name that he felt was very appropriate: Pinball. This was a satellite fortress that Han Xiao had modified. It was smaller in size and had increased mobility and combat capabilities. It had a more stable dark energy reactor as its core, and the cost was within a controllable range. According to Han Xiao's estimation, it was about the same as the flagships of an ordinary galactic civilization. This blueprint originated from the Bloodshed Land's armed satellite fortress. Han Xiao had developed his sole talent and made many improved versions of it. After all, Han Xiao was more focused on virtual technology and did not specialize in building super-large machines like the armed forces. He could not gamble with the blueprints of super-large machines. Thus, it was easier for him to reverse engineer the actual machines. Psionic energy was still too dangerous. For the time being, Han Xiao only used psionic energy on high-grade mechanical weapons. For a large fortress like this, he used a more stable energy source. Dark energy was everywhere in the universe, and it was also an application of abnormal state energy. The leaders of all the participating organizations were gathered on a Star Diamond grade flagship called SS Eternity for a battle meeting. As a leader of the Black Star Corps, Han Xiao naturally had to participate. At this time, he was in a meeting room with more than 100 people listening to the long-range commander of the Amethyst civilization talk nonstop. The virtual screen showed the distribution of the Bloodshed Land strongholds in the Constar system. Every hyperdrive base station was connected to 3 to 14 planet strongholds, forming a rapid support system. The Bloodshed Land had a total of 11 base stations in the Constar system. The 2D map was in the shape of a fan, with the first base station at the edge of the star system spreading inwards. The enemy's fan-shaped territory could be roughly divided into 3 layers. They were the 6 weakest outer base stations, the 4 middle base stations in the buffer zone, and the bridgehead base station. This time, the large-scale counterattack was from the outside all the way to the core base station, chasing away all the enemies. Our intelligence shows that the Bloodshed Land already knows of our actions and has raised their alert. We will be facing a head-on battle. Han Xiao was not paying too much attention. He had already received this information from Ralph and was casually sizing up the people around him to pass the time. The various leaders were present, including the strongest organizations such as the Arclight Organization, the Hero Group, and the new Phylan Revolutionary Army. They were once the trump cards of Section 0, but now, the leader of Section 0 was the Black Star Corps. These organizations were all inferior to him. At this time, the commander said the Bloodshed Land has mobilized reinforcements. Hardaway will be joining this battle. Your Excellency Black Star, we will be relying on you to hold the fort here. Han Xiao returned to his senses and nodded. The other leaders also nodded at him. He was now the strongest fighter in Section 0, and he would be in charge of the entire organization. The strongest enemy would be dealt with by him. In terms of high-level combatants, all the organizations present relied on him. This was also one of the important reasons why the Black Star Corps had such an outstanding position in Section 0. According to our intelligence, Hardaway and the reinforcements are defending the innermost bridgehead and are building all sorts of powerful defensive facilities. They want to use the outer base stations to delay our progress, and by time, to strengthen the defenses. Can't we directly attack the enemy's bridgehead? One of the leaders asked. The commander said with a deep voice, the Constar system borders the Kaya star system. After the Bloodshed Land broke through the star system border blockade, their forces spread to the Constar system. Thus, the Bloodshed Land stronghold is behind the bridgehead. If we attack the bridgehead directly, we will have to occupy it. At that time, we will be attacked from both the Kaya star system and the Constar system. Thus, we will start from the outermost periphery to eliminate the enemy's strongholds. The commander looked around and continued. Because we have to hurry, we have to eliminate all the outer base stations as soon as possible. The enemy is the weakest at the outer base stations, and we have the absolute advantage. We will split our forces into 6 groups and attack the 6 outer base stations. The specific distribution is as follows. After listening to the commander, Han Shao realized that the Black Star Corps will be leading a few troops to attack a stronger base station. He suddenly said, "I have a suggestion. Please speak." The commander's attitude was very respectful. Han Shao pointed at the star map. This smallest base station is only connected to 3 planet strongholds. It's too troublesome to send a team there. Leave it to the Black Star Corps. I'll take some people there and eliminate it. The commander hesitated for a moment before nodding. All right, I'll take back this portion of our forces. He had a lot of trust in Han Zhao's strength. However, it was just 3 planets and there was not a single calamity grade. Black Star alone could deal with them. The enemy did not have any experts at the outer base stations, and it would be a waste of resources to have an expert like Black Star in the middle. Then, the reward, don't worry. It will definitely satisfy you. The commander nodded. Purple Crystal would not be stingy with the Black Star Corps taking on additional missions. Han Shao smiled. I don't want much. Just give me 7,000 tons of dark crystal and 2,000 tons of string alloy. Rare materials could be used to build many elite mechanical soldiers. Compared to money, Han Shao preferred faction specialties as a reward. I'll report it. The commander's mouth twitched. After returning to pinball, Han Shao called Haluz over and told him about the plan to split up. Loggy would lead the majority of the troops to participate in the joint attack on the other side, while Han Shao would lead a large group of people to attack the smallest base station alone. Do you need to bring people? Haluz was confused. You can destroy 3 planet strongholds by yourself, right? I plan to bring Sylvia and Marion, as well as a portion of the undead army. The main purpose is to train them. Han Shao shrugged. All right. Haluz nodded. I have one more thing to tell you. The undead army that I didn't bring with me, you have to use them as much as possible. Throw them into the most dangerous battlefield. As long as it's a risky job, throw it all to them. Haluz scratched his head. I understand. Then, let them follow Harmon. After giving some instructions, Han Shao issued a limited mission to all the players through the faction interface. He said that he would split the troops into 2 groups, and a portion of them would follow him. There were only 300,000 slots. Through the faction interface, the 300,000 slots were taken in less than 3 minutes. Han Shao mobilized more than 100 spaceships and brought Sylvia, Marion, and the 300,000 excited players to leave the main group and head straight for the target location. Han Zhao's goal in this military operation was to fatten up the players and let them obtain as much EXP as possible. Thus, he was willing to be in charge of more tactical operations. Apart from the side missions of the main storyline, he was also prepared to use up the faction reward quota every day to distribute EXP to all the players in the name of following the army. Planet K00156, one of the strongholds of the Bloodshed Land in the outer base station system of the Constar system. This was a new stronghold that had yet to be completely remodeled. The surface was gray and metallic, and thousands of battleships were patrolling in outer space, guarding the stronghold. Hundreds of streams of light cut through the dark universe, leaving hyperdrive mode, and stopped not far away from Planet K00156. Speed was crucial in war, and Han Shao did not stop to rest. He quickly led his troops to this location. The 300,000 players stared at the planet through the windows of the spaceships with excited expressions. That should be the target. The battle is finally about to begin. I'm about to die from holding it in. Have you guys triggered the mission? Mine is to destroy the stronghold in front of us. Are you guys the same? Many players received the side missions of the main storyline one after another, and the requirement was to destroy Planet K00156. Mad Blade and a portion of the professional players participated in this mission, and Maple Moon followed. Port Bun went without saying. Wherever Black Star went, he would follow. He was always at the front line of the news. At this time, yellow warning lights lit up in every spaceship, and Philip's voice sounded from the artificial intelligence system. All members, head to the assault cabin and prepare for the airdrop. Check the condition of the armor and the life support system. We will enter the atmosphere of Planet 00156 and descend to the surface to kill the enemies and destroy the bases on the surface. I repeat, all members. Many players heard the order and headed to the airdrop cabin. Maple Moon, however, looked out of the window with hesitation on her face. The defense fleet of Planet K, 00156, had already discovered the approaching team and quickly surrounded them. The enemy had thousands of battleships, more than 10 times the number of this team. They were like sheep surrounded by a pack of wolves, and it seemed like there was no way for them to break through the enemy's blockade. How were they going to carry out the airdrop? Maple Moon had always been more concerned about such details. What are you waiting for? Let's go. Port Bun pushed her. Mad Blade also stopped and waited for her to catch up. Wait. Maple Moon waved her hand and took out her communicator. She summoned Philip and asked, "The enemy's fleet has surrounded us. How are we going to deal with them? If our battleships are destroyed, everyone will be sucked into space." "That's not a problem for you to worry about," Philip said cutely. "The enemy's fleet won't cause us any trouble." Maple Moon still wanted to ask more questions, but Pork Bun suddenly exclaimed, "Look outside. Black Star is going to face them alone." Everyone stopped and looked out of the window curiously. Maple Moon also raised her head hurriedly. Mad Blade walked back to the window and looked out. Han Xiao flew out of the fleet alone and faced the thousands of enemy battleships. The thousands of enemy battleships recognized him and opened fire. Thousands of ion cannons formed a triangular cone and shot toward him. The players in the spaceship could not help but feel nervous. In the previous version, Black Star did not display his overwhelming strength in space. Although they knew that Black Star had definitely become stronger in this version, this was the first time they had seen him in action. No one knew what level he had reached. This was the concentrated fire of thousands of battleships. Could he block it? Just as everyone was feeling nervous, Han Xiao suddenly turned his hands into claws. As if he was using space as a canvas, he pulled and changed the curvature of space around him. The countless ion cannons suddenly scattered and shot in all directions, all of them brushing past Han Xiao. Immediately after, the space around Han Xiao rippled. Army boxes jumped through space and lined up neatly behind Han Xiao in a matrix. Mad Blade quickly counted the number of army boxes. There were a total of 121 of them. The next moment, all the army boxes opened at the same time, as if Pandora's box had been released. An endless black tide of machines poured out, firing millions of energy cannons. It was like a moving thunderstorm cloud, covering the sky and swallowing half of the enemy's fleet in the blink of an eye. The shields of hundreds of enemy battleships were instantly torn apart, and their hulls exploded into fireworks. In just an instant, half of the thousands of enemy battleships were destroyed. Even though this terrifying black tide of machines was charging toward the enemy, the players in the spaceship could not help but hold their breaths and feel a sense of pressure. In the past 7 years, Han Xiao did not have much experience to level up, so he focused on expanding the Mech Legion to increase its strength. Now, the scale of the Mech Legion had reached tens of millions. He had created a new artificial intelligence that was responsible for combat calculations, and Philip was the butler. Warning, the energy level is rising rapidly. Take precautions. An alarm sounded in the spaceship's ears. All of a sudden, a strong energy fluctuation appeared on the surface of Planet K, 00156. The observation window of the spaceship automatically adjusted, and they saw a large anti-space railgun on the surface of Planet K, 00156. It was 200 meters tall, and it had been activated. It was aimed at Han Xiao, and the barrel of the cannon with a diameter of more than 100 meters glowed with a strong purple light. Han Xiao's attention was also attracted. He threw out a compressed orb, which quickly expanded in space and turned into the Ice Age Star freezing cannon. Mechanical force flowed through the structure of the machine, and an even more terrifying energy burst out. An icy blue beam of light shot out from the barrel of the cannon, which quickly crossed the distance and accurately hit the anti-space railgun on the surface. The observation window of the spaceship faithfully displayed the result of this attack. Everyone could only see that the base where the large anti-space railgun was located was only left with a huge crater sealed in ice. The ground was covered in ice, and the surrounding area was completely frozen. It stretched for dozens of kilometers, and the area was still expanding. Although they could not hear anything, many people shivered and felt a chill run down their spine. If this was a normal colonial planet, one shot would probably be able to destroy an entire city. Just when everyone was stunned, Han Xiao suddenly moved. He passed through the chaotic enemy fleet and quickly arrived near the enemy's huge flagship. He directly activated machinery apostolization, and the eyes under the mechanical suit lit up with a blue light. This was a sign that the energy in his body was extremely abundant. Han Xiao pressed his palm on the advanced electromagnetic shield of the flagship and continuously released psionic energy through his body. The shield was instantly dyed blue, and, after flashing a few times, it exploded into pieces. Han Xiao was unobstructed, and he directly charged to the exterior of the flagship. His hands formed claws, and he fiercely stabbed them into the flagship's armor. An endless stream of psionic energy flowed through his fingers into the enemy's flagship. With Han Xiao's palm as the center, fine cracks with a blue light quickly spread to the exterior of the flagship like energy veins. The entire flagship was like a piece of broken porcelain. When the light from the cracks reached its peak, the flagship suddenly exploded. Blue flames surged out and quickly burned all the oxygen inside. It lasted for an instant before extinguishing. At the same time, the mechanical army had already destroyed all the enemy battleships. Like tired birds returning to their nest, they disappeared without a trace after retrieving their army boxes. Only the wreckage of the battleships was left floating in the sky like giant beasts that had been eaten by ants. The battle ended in less than 5 minutes. For a galactic expert of his level, as long as there were no supers of the same level holding him back, destroying a small fleet alone would not be a problem. It was completely a basic operation. Philip's cheerful voice sounded from the spaceship. Your Excellency Black Star has cleared the obstacles. All personnel, please get ready. We will airdrop in 3 minutes. I repeat, Black, gulp. The throat of the surrounding players moved, and they subconsciously swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Was this the world of the strong? Chapter 7:15. The players were dazzled by the sight of an individual fighting against a fleet. It was like a top-notch special effects movie. This light, this fire, the last time they saw Han Xiao in action, he did not have such overwhelming combat power. It seemed that too many changes had happened in the past 10 years. Mad Blade felt an inexplicable sense of vicissitudes. Port Bun's eyes sparkled. He slapped Mad Blade's butt and hurriedly asked, "Hey, didn't you say that our strength will continue to be unlocked with the version? Does that mean that we will all be able to destroy fleets in the future? That's interesting. It should be possible." Mad Blade had no idea. According to his idea, since the galaxy power system would not change, the effect of them becoming stronger would also affect the NPC's view of them. This was also a real-time calculation world with a high degree of freedom. Perhaps they could reach Black Star's combat power in the future? Maple Moon was deep in thought. She felt that the effect of all the players leveling up was not as simple as becoming stronger in PK. This small episode did not affect the speed of the spaceships. Hundreds of spaceships were approaching the atmosphere of Planet K, 00156. The artificial intelligence system had already started the countdown for the airdrop. Under Philip's urging, the 300,000 players were ready to go. They boarded the airdrop cabins and were eager to give it a try. One by one, the space coffin-like airdrop cabins slid into the orbit. Mad Blade, Pork Bun, Maple Moon, and a large group of other players were in the same airdrop cabin. All of them took out their weapons. Even espers and pugilists were equipped with firearms as a standard means of combat. Maple Moon frowned. Suddenly, she thought of something. Right, Black Star destroyed the enemy's battleship. Can't we just attack the ground from outer space? Why do we need to airdrop? Everyone was stunned. However, before they could think about it, the next moment, the airdrop cabins shook violently. Everyone felt weightless. Boom, boom, boom. Han Xiao hovered beside the fleet and looked down at the planet below him. The airdrop cabins were like burning meteorites, drawing a blazing trajectory and shrinking into tiny dots, landing in the bases on the surface. Han Xiao enlarged his field of vision. On the ground, the airdrop cabins released an endless stream of players, which turned into a flood and swept out. This planet had many bases on the surface. Numerous Bloodshed Land officers led troops to fight against the players. The players with their own abilities fought fiercely against the 1,000 B soldiers and musclehead warriors. The strongest person guarding the enemy was only Grade B, and they were forced to retreat in front of the fearless players. Not bad. I should be able to earn a huge amount of EXP this time. Han Xiao had no intention of helping. He sat cross-legged in outer space and overlooked the battle. Countless individuals the size of grains of sand were exchanging fire with weapons in their hands, causing explosions on the surface of the Earth. He had taken the initiative to apply to deal with the smallest peripheral base station system. The 3 planetary bases and the warp station were the fertilizer he had prepared for the players. Other than the battle missions and faction missions, these Bloodshed Land warriors stationed on the surface were all walking EXP. Killing them all would give the players a lot of EXP. With his level, killing these small fries would only give him +1 EXP. However, the players were different. Their levels were low, and they could increase the benefits of killing these enemies countless times. He could then harvest this EXP from the players. This was a perfect production chain. It was like feeding chickens to lay eggs. The players are getting stronger and stronger. Like in my previous life, they will slowly step onto a bigger stage and be exposed to stronger and stronger organizations. Han Xiao sighed to himself. In his previous life, as the players' strength increased and they became active in various parts of the universe, many powerful galaxy organizations paid attention to the players. In the middle and later versions of his previous life, the players even had a famous nickname in the galaxy, the Cancer of the Universe. Han Xiao had always felt that this nickname was very cool and appropriate. However, now, the players were still very far away from this standard. The first and second batch of core players in version 3.0 had reached Grade B, and this was the beginning of the rise of the players. As a farmer who wanted to spread the radiance of leeks all over the universe, Han Xiao knew that he still had a long way to go. Your Excellency Black Star, are we not going to help? Just as Han Xiao was looking down at the planet in deep thought, Marion, who was in heavy armor, flew to Han Xiao's side and asked if they should support the ground troops. He was one of the 3 Calamity Grade Supers that had joined 7 years ago. He was a strong mechanical pugilist who was silent and focused on improving his strength. He could be considered loyal and was quite trusted by Han Xiao. There's no need. This is training. You have other things to do. Han Xiao waved his hands. Marion nodded. This planet is under attack, so the hyperdrive base station will definitely open a fast reinforcement channel. I need you to attack the hyperdrive base station when the reinforcements arrive and take control of it. Then, send me quickly to the other 2 planet strongholds through the wormhole channel of the base station. I will destroy all the flying vehicles and lead the troops to clear them out, Han Xiao said. He wanted to turn the ground troops of the 3 planet strongholds into lambs waiting to be slaughtered and destroy their means of escape. He wanted them to be trapped on the planet strongholds, and not a single one of them would be able to escape. Han Xiao still wanted to say something, but his eyes suddenly flashed as he sensed the change in space-time. He chuckled and said, "The 2 of you, prepare yourselves. Death is coming." As soon as he said that, a whirlpool-like blue wormhole channel appeared in the outer space of planet K00156 and spat out battleships one after another. Sylvia did not say anything and decisively increased the propulsion power of her armor. She turned into a stream of light and agilely dodged the laser cannons, charging into the wormhole channel. Marion followed closely behind. His performance was much more violent, directly opening up dozens of layers of shields and charging into the wormhole. Along the way, he even smashed through 2 small assault spaceships. Both of them were mechanical pugilists, and the mechanical suits on them were powerful equipment that Han Shao had carefully improved. Together with their calamity-grade strength, it was enough to control a hyperdrive base station that did not have any high-level combatants. Furthermore, both of their suits were installed with Philip's subprogram, which indirectly increased his data range. When the 2 of them went over, he would be able to remotely assist them and invade the base station. The reinforcements continued to appear, and their numbers increased. Han Shao floated in the air with his legs crossed. The improved 11th generation Watcher instrument automatically defended, and a total of 361 blue-gold floating guards surrounded him, forming an extremely thick psionic shield that blocked the bombardment of the enemy fleet. "I'm not in a hurry now. I'll play with you guys." Han Shao grinned, and with a thought, a terrifying stream of data blasted toward the artificial intelligence system of these battleships. In the blink of an eye, the artificial intelligence firewall of these spaceships was riddled with holes, and the calculation module became unstable. "Oh no, I'm going to die. After going through so many class advancements, his virtual technology skills have been strengthened to a whole new level. The strength and speed of his invasion were incomparable to before. Furthermore, he had also obtained a new cutting-edge knowledge from the Amethyst civilization, quantum matrix thought field. His data range had increased by countless times, and his invasion method had undergone a revolutionary change. Han Shao could already directly connect to the quantum network. Within the range of this range, he could create a torrent of data with just a thought. His invasion ability was strong, and things like porn in his brain were not a problem at all. This was the signature ability of a virtual mechanic. Han Shao had become stronger in all aspects. Although he had not reached the beyond grade A realm, he was already worthy of being called a high-level expert in the galaxy. A virtual mechanic was a killing machine in the galactic battlefield. Even if Han Shao did not use the Mech Legion, he could still easily deal with small fleets. While he was invading, he sent out the elite Mech Legion to board the battleships and eliminate the enemy personnel. He was not in a hurry now, so he planned to reduce the damage and seize these battleships. The battle was done with ease, and there was not much pressure. Han Shao retracted part of his attention and decided to check the situation of the players. On the surface of planet K00156, inside a certain stronghold, there was already a tragic battlefield. Bang, bang, bang. More than 10 large-caliber armor-piercing explosive bullets, wrapped in mechanical force, pierced through the body of a 1,000 soldier. Flesh and blood scattered all over the ground. Frenzied Sword kicked away the corpse that crashed into him due to inertia. He then raised his arm and unfolded an alloy wrist shield, blocking a series of blaster shots. He calculated the durability in his heart and charged forward with large strides. With a slide kick, he charged into the midst of a 5-man enemy squad. He threw out his electromagnetic chain and spiral knife, engaging in a battle for a while before finally killing the 5 of them. After taking a deep breath, he looked around. This was the hub hall of this stronghold, and countless players were fighting with the enemy in the hall. Cannon fire crisscrossed, and the ground was filled with the corpses of the enemy. The players who died turned into white light and revived, not leaving behind a corpse. Therefore, the scene looked like a one-sided massacre, like a swarm of locusts. The players spontaneously formed small teams and cooperated with each other in battle. The sound of cannon fire was mixed with energetic shouts. "Pull the monsters! Pull the monsters! Back row attack! Main tank, hold steady and inject life support hormones. Secondary and tertiary tanks, get ready to take over at any time. Mechanics, quickly set up the cannons. What the F***CK are you standing there for? Haha, we've made a killing. 1,000 B soldier gave us so much EXP. What the F***CK? Who the F***CK stole my kill? The Esper class players showed their abilities, and all kinds of energy waves were released continuously. With their fearlessness, they forced the enemy to retreat again and again. The players had the advantage in numbers, and their individual strength was also not bad. They were all at least grade C. There were even a few 10-mile slow players who had accumulated quite a lot of EXP from the previous version who had risen to grade B. Furthermore, they had their biggest trump card, Revival. With such a force, what was the need for scouting, probing, feinting, sneak attacks, and ambushes? All they needed to do was airdrop. Mad Blade directly broke through the blockade line and rushed into the corridor of the stronghold base. Although the battle mission only required him to clear the stronghold, he was very experienced and knew that killing the officers and commanders of the stronghold would definitely greatly increase his mission rating. Thus, he decided to abandon the small fries and search for the enemy's headquarters. There were quite a few players who had the same idea, so Mad Blade did not dare waste any time. At the same time, in the headquarters of the stronghold, the surveillance equipment that was still working showed the dozens of areas where the battle had broken out. The stronghold commander's face was pale, and his legs were trembling uncontrollably. He was both shocked and furious. This is the Black Star Corps' immortal troop. The stronghold commander bit his lips and panicked. As the enemy, the people of Bloodshed Land all knew about the Black Star Corps. This immortal troop was the hidden trump card of the Black Star Corps. They had disappeared for 10 whole years, and now they had appeared again. Despair rose in his heart. The terror of the immortal troop was already displayed in front of him through the surveillance cameras. This group of people was extremely bloodthirsty and did not leave a single one of their subordinates alive. It would not be long before they washed the stronghold with blood. Their spaceships had already been destroyed by Black Star in outer space, and they had nowhere to run. How's the support fleet? The stronghold commander still held on to the last glimmer of hope. We sent out 17 messages, but the other party did not reply. We have lost contact with the support fleet. Black Star is probably already. The intelligence officer's face was filled with panic. The stronghold commander was completely desperate. He had no choice but to watch his death approach. Why don't we just... Boom. Before he could finish, the door exploded, and Mad Blade rushed in through the smoke. Without any hesitation, he changed to a mechanical melee weapon and waved the high-frequency axe, slashing anyone he saw. Wait, I'm the manager of the stronghold. I surrender. As the axe approached, the stronghold commander was scared out of his wits. He begged for mercy in a panic, raised his hands, and knelt down. The axe stopped 10 centimeters above the stronghold commander's head. The stronghold commander's lips trembled, and his body almost went limp. This time, Mad Blade poked his head out and looked at him with confusion. You're the commander? I am. You surrender? That's right, that's right. Mad Blade paused for a moment, mumbled, and exerted force on his wrist. The high-frequency axe directly split the stronghold commander, who thought he had escaped death, in half. Shaking off the blue blood on the axe, Mad Blade shook his head. You didn't even trigger a mission when you surrendered. What's the point of having you? Yo, so much EXP for killing a sergeant? Frenzy Blade was overjoyed as he turned around and left. His figure disappeared at the door of the room, leaving behind a pile of corpses and a wall full of blood. At the same time, inside the hyperdrive base station, the long alloy sword was being dragged by a slender hand. Golden red energy arcs flowed on the sword, and the tip of the sword left a deep mark on the hard metal floor, as if it was cutting tofu. This was an alloy corridor, and the front and back were filled with Bloodshed Land soldiers. They were closing in, and the light cannons were focused on the tall beauty in armor in the middle. However, they were blocked by the armor shield enhanced by mechanical force, and could not stop her from moving forward. Sylvia seemed to have ignored the army that was attacking her from the front and back. She turned around and looked at the porthole in the corridor. Marion, who was wearing a heavy mechanical suit, was fighting against the defense fleet outside, having a good time. Quickly take down the base station. Don't let teacher wait for too long. Sylvia mumbled to herself. She suddenly grabbed the hilt of the sword with both hands and swung it. In space, the soldiers who were piloting spaceships to attack Marion could clearly see that the interior of the hyperdrive base station had suddenly exploded with a bright golden red ring, directly splitting the entire base station into two halves, cutting off 1/5 of the area. Why are you even more violent than me? Don't destroy the base station. We still need it, Marion said helplessly. In the outer space of planet K00156, Han Xiao floated in space and waited silently. More than half of the reinforcement fleet had been captured by him, and they were lying on the side obediently. This time, a wormhole channel opened again, and on the other side was the second stronghold. The remaining defense fleet was huddled together, as if they were shouting in panic, "Don't come over!" Han Xiao smiled. 3 bags of fertilizer, not one less. Chapter 716. As Sylvia had taken over the hyperdrive base station, Han Xiao used the enemy's wormhole channel to quickly attack the remaining 2 planet strongholds. Originally, after the hyperdrive base station was lost, the remaining 2 planet strongholds knew that they were no match for the enemy and wanted to retreat. However, Han Xiao's efficiency was too high, and the enemy was unable to move the resources away in a short period of time. The second planet stronghold's fleet was completely wiped out, and the third planet stronghold's fleet abandoned the surface troops and escaped. Having lost their flying vehicles, the ground troops of the 2 strongholds became trapped beasts. They could only watch helplessly as the airdrop cabins smashed into their heads. The roaring undead troops surged out like a tide, bringing blood and slaughter. There were not many strong supers in these small strongholds, and it was just right for the level of the players. Occasionally, there would be some grade B supers that could be considered bosses in the eyes of the players. Overall, the cleanup was very smooth. Not too long later, Han Xiao led 300,000 players and wiped out the 3 strongholds. Not a single one was left alive, and all the heads belonged to the players. Together with the rewards from the battle mission and faction mission, these players received a huge wave of EXP, and they were very happy. The remaining forces of the hyperdrive base station were also cleared out by Han Xiao. The resources left behind in this base station would be cleaned up by the logistics team, so he did not have to worry about them. This base station was successfully removed, and Han Xiao contacted Herluz to ask about the situation of the Black Star Corps. He mainly wanted to see the experience of the players over there. Under the lead of Lagi and Herluz, the Black Star Army's main force cooperated with a few other allies to attack one of the stronger base stations. Over 1 million players were scattered and attacked the 6 planet strongholds. The largest team was led by Harmon. Han Xiao brought up the image of the battlefield, and it showed a wilderness battlefield. Harmon was at the very front, roaring loudly. His furry and burly body forcefully withstood the concentrated fire of the enemy's ground vehicles as he brandished his war hammer and slaughtered one formation after another. More than a dozen 10,000 B soldiers hung on his body, swinging back and forth, but they did not affect him at all. A large number of players followed behind him and cooperated with him. Because Harmon's warrior soul was burning fiercely, he always charged toward the most concentrated group of people. Thus, the players behind him also suffered the most intense concentrated fire. Although Harmon's recklessness caused the players' scalps to go numb, following behind him, there were plenty of opportunities to deal the finishing blow. It was both painful and enjoyable. The treatment of the majority of the players was not as good as the 300,000 players on Han Xiao's side. They did not have so many heads to monopolize, so their final rewards would not be as good. However, according to the current standards of the players, the rewards were still very generous. There are still a few more battles to come. It shouldn't be a problem for most people to level up a few times. Han Xiao rubbed his chin. It had only been half a month since version 3.0 started. Not to mention those who had already reached grade B. The average level of all the army players was around LV93. When they reached LV100, they would definitely reach grade B, and the combat strength of the players would undergo a qualitative change. In the early stages of the version, due to the increase in quest rewards, players leveled up faster. It would not be too difficult for them to reach level 100 in a short time. When Sylvia and Marion returned, Han Xiao praised their efficiency. Needless to say, Marion was a reliable combatant who would work hard without complaint. Sylvia, after 10 years of training, had finally become the capable assistant that Han Xiao wanted, able to take charge of things on her own. In the spaceship's cockpit, Sylvia listened to Han Xiao's praise, and a sincere smile appeared on her face. "It's all because you taught me well, teacher." She still remembered that more than 10 years ago, her soul had been blinded, and she had tried to attack Han Xiao. In the end, Han Xiao had led her onto the right path. Sylvia was filled with gratitude toward Han Xiao. The 10 years of child labor contract had long passed, but she did not mention it again. If not for Han Xiao's careful teaching for more than 10 years, she would still be struggling at death's door in some star system. She could not imagine how terrible her life would have been. Instead of saying that it was a contract to sell her body, Sylvia felt that it was more like an excuse for Han Xiao to help her. After more than 10 years of being together, she had already developed a reliance on Han Xiao like a foster father. She did not have any intention of leaving immediately after she had grown up. "Continue to work hard. You still have room for improvement." Han Xiao nodded. Sylvia had just entered grade A and was considered one of the weaker calamity grade supers. With the orange equipment that Han Xiao had specially made for her, she was able to unleash her full strength. She still had the potential to become stronger. Han Xiao let his troops rest for a while before setting off to meet up with the main force. Lagi had many troops, so he was not in a hurry. When they returned to the main force, the battle had already ended a while ago. They had also successfully destroyed a base station and were cleaning up the battlefield. Reports of success kept coming in. The 6 bloodshed land strongholds in the periphery of the Constar system had been successfully cleared, and some of them had escaped back to the 4 base stations in the second layer. Section 0 gathered the troops and pushed forward aggressively. In the next 10 days or so, the speed of the troops' advancement slowed down. The defense of the enemy base stations in the middle layer was much higher than the periphery, and they would receive reinforcement from time to time. The flames of war had been incessant for the past half a month, and the players had plenty of opportunities to fight. They had already gotten used to the mode of the mission and rushed to the most dangerous front lines. Cold-blooded. This was the impression that the players left on the other members of Section 0. They did not accept surrenders, and even if the enemy gave up resisting, they would still kill them without leaving a single one alive. The various parties had long known that the Black Star Corps had such an immortal army. They had disappeared for 10 years and reappeared. Their role in the war was extremely obvious, and many organizations were envious of them. As the Black Star Corps was getting stronger and stronger, many organizations had researched the immortal army. Based on the performance of the players, most organizations were inclined to believe that this was a projection of the Space Wonders. They were immortal and indestructible, but they required some sort of energy to revive, and the number of times they could revive in a short period of time was limited. Although 1,000,000 low-grade supers was not a lot in a galactic war, the advantage was that they could be recycled. Every enemy that died would be one less, and they would always have 0 casualties. They were comparable to the famous Undead Army, Demon Pool, Indestructible Mecha Empire, and many other special forces. In the eyes of the other organizations, this group of immortals was Black Star's trump card, a special force that was even stronger than the 10,000 B soldiers of Bloodshed Land. With the current status of the Black Star Corps, they had the qualifications to have a special force. Although many organizations were envious, they did not intend to provoke the Black Star for 1,000,000 immortals. Furthermore, other than Han Xiao, the others were not clear about the growth rate of the players. Han Xiao had remained on his side and did not take action for half a month. However, he alone was enough to make an army of thousands retreat, and the high-level combatants of the enemy did not dare to take action. Han Xiao's ferocious name was too well known, and he had killed too many grade A supers in the past 10 years. He already had the status of a strategic deterrent, and ordinary calamity grades did not even want to fight with him. In this battle, the only opponent who had the qualifications to fight was Hardaway. This beyond grade A seed was indeed difficult to deal with. Han Xiao had fought him 13 times in the past 7 years, and he had won all of them. However, although Hardaway was stubborn, his brain was not damaged. When he saw that the situation was not good, he ran faster than anyone else. Because he was really tanky, Han Xiao was never able to catch him. He finally felt how the enemy felt when facing him. Han Xiao estimated that he would only be able to beat Hardaway this time, but he did not mind at all and was relaxed. The players had already returned, and his level had increased. When the time came, it would be much easier to beat Hardaway. He was not in a hurry at all. The leader was not doing anything, so Loggy led the high-level combatants of the Black Star Corps to take action. Loggy was currently sitting firmly in the position of the vice-captain of the Black Star Corps. In the eyes of outsiders, he was also the leader of the magic side of the army. Although he was filled with negative energy, Loggy's combat strength was still trustworthy. The former Forbidden Sorcerer Commander did not have an undeserved reputation. His magic was as vast as the ocean, and casting forbidden spells was like throwing away trash. His actual combat strength could be ranked in the top 10 of Section 0. After spending more than 10 days to break through 2 of the core base stations, the remaining 2 bases took the initiative to retreat and return to the last core base station. Originally, Bloodshed Land wanted to use the other bases to stall for time and take the opportunity to set up more defenses. However, Section 0's attack this time was fierce, and they could not stall for time. Thus, they decided to save their fleet and gather their forces, preparing for a huge battle with Section 0. The last enemy base station in the Constar system had gathered the retreating troops and a large number of reinforcements. Section 0 had come up with a strategy to deal with them, and the mission given to Han Xiao by the command center was to restrain the high-level combatants of the enemy and defeat Hardaway. After the battle began, Han Xiao would not be able to take care of the players. Thus, before the battle began, he had instructed his officers to arrange the players clearly. At the same time, the officers of the last base station in the Constar system were also having a meeting to discuss how to deal with Section 0's attack. As the long-range commander, Jode also participated in the meeting through a virtual projection. We have 14 planet bases and 1 hyperdrive base station. Regardless of whether the enemy splits up their forces or attacks together, we have a way to deal with them. Although our fleet is much smaller, as long as we can hold on for 3 days, the next batch of reinforcements will arrive. They will bring a Stargate with them. Section 0 can't keep gathering their forces. Our comrades in the other star systems can take this opportunity to expand. The longer we delay, the better it is for us. There is no need to fight to the death. We can retreat to Kaya and wait for the majority of Section 0's forces to disperse. Then, we can break through the blockade again and return to Kant. Everyone expressed their own opinions. They mainly gave their own suggestions to Jode, as Jode was the one who made the decision. Jode nodded and said, "We already have a plan for the overall strategy, and a battle is inevitable. Now that the enemy has the initiative, our countermeasures might be useful, but we still have to adapt according to the enemy's movements. What we need to consider the most is how to deal with the enemy's advantage. Section 0 has far more soldiers than you do. In terms of high-level combatants, Black Star is invincible. We are at a huge disadvantage." Hardaway replied with a deep voice, "I will hold him back. He has already beaten you back more than 10 times, proving that you can't fight him alone. You have many records of retreating prematurely, which led to the annihilation of all the high-level combatants helping you to pin down Black Star. At least 15 grade A supers have died," Jode said bluntly. Sometimes, he even suspected that Hardaway was sent by the enemy. Every time he made a move, the casualty rate on his side would increase significantly. Hardaway was speechless. He could not refute his actions of betraying his teammate. He could only grunt to express his dissatisfaction. Jode's expression was solemn. "This time, I will give you the weapons specially made to deal with Black Star. It can only be used once, so you better grab the opportunity." Hardaway touched the item in his pocket with a hesitant expression. A few days ago, Jode had sent a small team to hand him a strange item. He had said that this was a special one-use weapon to deal with Black Star, and that it could severely injure Black Star. He had told him to use it when he fought with Black Star. Although Hardaway did not know the exact function of this weapon, it was definitely something to be used against Black Star. Hardaway worked for Bloodshed Land mainly to fight with Han Shao. Only by fighting head-on would he be able to unleash his potential. He was not willing to use other methods to deal with Han Shao. Do you understand? You must find the right opportunity to use it. Jode repeated. This does not seem like the tyrant style. Hardaway was dissatisfied. This is my request. Jode emphasized. He respected the tyrant's magnanimity, but some dirty work had to be done. He had obtained this special weapon with great difficulty, and he had not told Heber about it. Hadavi grumbled and reluctantly agreed. However, he had already decided not to use it. Chapter 717. Bloodshed Land and Section 0 had been competing for 10 years, and both parties were extremely familiar with each other. This was another battle, and both parties were well prepared. Section 0's troops did not waste any time and quickly launched an attack on the last base station in the Constar system. The battlefront included all the enemy strongholds, and more than 10 planets were lit up in flames. The Black Star Corps' fleet cooperated with the other members to attack the various strongholds. Currently, the players were not of much use in galactic warfare, so Han Shao planned to use the players as the vanguard of the ground battle. They would be at the most intense front line, and while it was filled with danger, they would also be at the front line. They would be able to charge at the enemy's defense line without fear of death. As for Han Shao himself, he would be at the core of the main battlefield and follow the rest of the troops to attack the enemy's core hyperdrive base station. His side had the absolute advantage in terms of military strength, and he did not need to charge in alone this time. He only needed to sit on the Star Diamond grade flagship, SS Eternity, and watch as his fleet charged at the enemy's defense line and slowly advanced. In the command room of SS Eternity, the walls of the spaceship were like transparent crystals. It was as though they were standing on an open-air platform, and they could clearly observe the battlefield outside from all angles. In the command room, there was a colorful holographic projection of the battlefield, and the commanders and strategists were monitoring the changes on the battlefield. Han Shao stood by the side and observed. He was not the commander this time, but as the strongest high-level combatant on his side, he was also a member of the upper echelons. He sat in the command room and was ready to attack at any time. The commander and the others were analyzing the battlefield, and Han Shao was listening. The enemy has transferred a portion of the fleets from the other strongholds back to defend the base station. Their counterattack is very strong, and we will need a long time to break through the enemy's defense line and satellite defense base. However, there's also good news. As many of the enemy's troops have gathered to defend the base station, the defense of the stronghold itself has decreased, and our troops attacking the other strongholds are gaining an advantage. Han Shao nodded. The hyperdrive base station was connected to all the strongholds, and it was like a heart that transported blood to the various organs. Most importantly, the moment it was lost, the entire base station would be gone. As they had the advantage in terms of military strength, the majority of the troops would focus on attacking the base station, while the other troops would pressure the other strongholds. This way, in order to defend the hyperdrive base station, the enemy would have no choice but to transfer troops from the other strongholds. Section 0's objective was actually to destroy the fleets of those planetary strongholds. That was because the moment the hyperdrive base station was lost, the fleets of the various enemy strongholds would decisively retreat to preserve their strength. Therefore, although it looked like a general attack on the main battlefield, it was actually to delay the enemy so that the other troops could kill more enemies and expand the battle results. The more troops there were, the more willful they were. Han Zhao's gaze swept across the battlefield, observing Hardaway's whereabouts. His job today was to repel Hardaway. Not seeing Hardaway fighting, Han Shao rubbed his chin. Is he not going to fight? Have you found any traces of him on the other battlefields? Perhaps Hardaway would avoid him and use the advantage of the hyperdrive base station's mobility to support the other strongholds through the wormhole. The other troops did not have any high-level combatants who could stop him. However, Han Shao was not worried. If Hardaway dared to avoid him, it would mean that no one in the enemy base could restrain him. He could then push the line and force Hardaway to defend the crystal. The other teams didn't find any traces of him. The commander shook his head. He's still in the base station. As long as he doesn't come out, you don't have to do anything. They're the ones who are anxious. Han Shao nodded and opened the player forums to pass the time. At this time, the players were all doing their own battle missions. A large number of posts on the forums were screenshots of the various battlefields, showing the different enemies, bosses, and spoils of war. There were also some players who posted videos and live streams. For example, the players of the various clubs took the initiative to broadcast the scenes of professional players teaming up to attract fans. Participating in such a huge battle made them feel very excited. Fighting on the front lines was not easy, and it was only interesting when there was a challenge. Han Shao roughly scanned the forums, and most of the players were satisfied with this battle. Compared to the players of the other star fields who were still figuring out the main storyline, the players of the Black Star Corps had already started to absorb the nutrients of the main storyline. After browsing the forums for a while, the commander's urgent call made Han Shao come back to his senses. Hardaway has appeared. Han Zhao's eyes lit up. He closed the forums and looked at the battlefield. He saw Hardaway appear in the attacking fleet of the Black Star Corps, attacking battleships one after another. Logi went to intercept him, and the two of them had already started a fight. "Your Excellency, Black Star, please repel him," the commander said solemnly. In the interstellar battlefield where ion cannons crisscrossed, Logi and Hardaway were fighting. The staff in his hand flickered, and dazzling magic radiance smashed onto Hardaway's body like a waterfall, turning into fragments of light like broken jade. Hardaway was a close combat main tank, and Logi was a long-range cannon. The two of them were clearly kiting each other. The battlefield kept changing, and the violent energy waves from the battle between the two of them were as dazzling as stars in the detection radar. The battleships nearby were all affected. The two of them moved from one corner of the battlefield to another. It was only a short distance in the universe. Hardaway grabbed the opportunity and crashed into a Section 0 battleship with Logi. The two of them fell into the cabin of the battleship, then quickly got up and faced each other. An ear-piercing alarm sounded inside the battleship, and all kinds of defense measures were activated. All kinds of small floating guards, mobile cannons, and mechanical guards rushed over from various passages. The guards of the fleet also rushed over. Dense footsteps and mechanical sounds came from the passage behind Hardaway. He did not turn around and punch behind him. The huge force compressed the air in the cabin, and a powerful shock wave swept out like a hurricane. The cabin behind him was torn apart, and the guards who rushed over were almost all wiped out. Hardaway retracted his hand, looked at Logi, and praised, as expected of the deputy commander of the Black Star Corps. "Your magic makes me feel very dangerous. Among all the mages I have seen, your strength can be ranked in the top 5. Sigh. If I had known, I would have chosen to be a psychic back then. What's the use of magic? It can't kill you, and learning it is so tiring." Logi sighed and put down his staff. Seeing that Logi had no intention of attacking, Hardaway asked with confusion, "Are you going to admit defeat?" Logi shook his head. "I can't kill you, and you can't kill me. Anyway, Black Star will be here soon. Let's just go through the motions and save some energy." Hardaway had a strange expression. "You are the one who wants to slack off." At this time, Han Shao flew in through the hole in the battleship. When he saw the two of them getting along peacefully, he was stunned. Without waiting for him to speak, Logi spoke first. "I'll leave his place to you." As soon as he finished speaking, Logi used a teleportation spell to teleport himself out and disappeared. Han Shao was helpless against Logi's lazy attitude and turned to look at Hardaway. "It's you again. Why did you have to go to Bloodshed Land to create trouble for me? If you like being beaten up by me so much, you might as well let me catch you and beat you up 3 times a day." As soon as he saw Han Shao, Hardaway's fighting spirit was ignited, and he pounced forward. "Only when I'm your enemy will you have killing intent toward me. Only such a battle is worth it. Han Xiao had already activated his machinery apostolization and stacked almost 1,000 attributes. He dodged Hardaway's attack, grabbed his arm, and threw him out, smashing a new hole in the battleship. Psionic energy flowed into his body through the mechanical force transmitted through the void. Han Xiao raised his hand and shot out a psionic impact, blasting Hardaway a little further away. Only then did he summon the Mech Legion. A cold voice sounded from Han Xiao's mechanical helmet. Legion Combat System, Sparta, awaiting orders. This was the artificial intelligence that belonged to the Mech Legion. Han Xiao named it Sparta. This name sounded like it knew how to fight. Han Xiao gave the order, and the Mech Legion cooperated under Sparta's control. The black mass of mechanical soldiers chased after Hardaway. After fighting with him so many times, Han Xiao knew Hardaway's abilities like the back of his hand. As it was difficult to kill this troublemaker, the Mech Legion focused on control. Hardaway and the Mech Legion fought intensely. Han Xiao casually fired from the side, occasionally destroying the approaching enemy ships. He also entered Hardaway's voice channel to harass him. "Stop fighting. You can't win anyway. When are you planning to escape this time? I'll leave you a path in advance. Let's negotiate. You stand still and let me fire a few shots to vent my anger. Next time, I'll fight you in close combat. How about that? How much did Bloodshed Land pay you? I'll double it. Be my subordinate." Hardaway's face turned darker and darker. He could not help but roar. "Shut up. Focus on hitting me." He liked to use strong enemies to squeeze out his potential. He felt that only a thrilling battle with all his might could yield results. The moment he was distracted by Han Xiao, he immediately felt annoyed. Han Xiao was about to say something when Jode's serious voice suddenly sounded in the communication channel. Both he and Hardaway heard it. "Hardaway, use the weapon I gave you immediately." "Weapon? The enemy might have prepared some special means for me." Han Xiao immediately became alert. The Mech Legion intensified their attacks. At the same time, he stared at Hardaway's every move. However, Hardaway acted as if he did not hear anything. He focused on fighting the Mech Legion. "Did you hear that?" Jode said angrily. "Are you going to disobey my orders?" Hadavi turned a deaf ear to him. Jode's tone suddenly turned cold. "I knew you wouldn't listen." Hadavi suddenly felt that something was wrong. The special weapon on him suddenly reacted. It was a secret message bead, and it suddenly unlocked on its own. A pale white ball of light that was between reality and illusion flew out. It looked like it existed in the form of energy, and it was only the size of a palm. It floated beside Hadavi. "What's this?" Han Xiao and Hardaway were both stunned. Without waiting for the two of them to think, the white ball of light suddenly disappeared and teleported to Han Xiao's shoulder. Han Xiao had already been alert and reacted immediately. Void travel. The surrounding space seemed to have frozen. Han Xiao got rid of the white ball of light and quickly retreated. This thing looked very strange, so it was best to stay as far away as possible. The next moment, the white ball of light turned into a stream of light and shot over. It could actually move in the void dimension. Han Xiao was shocked. He kept dodging, but the white ball of light chased after him. Han Xiao hurriedly deactivated void travel and directly used a short-range hyperdrive to leave the battlefield. However, the white ball of light teleported in front of him again like a directional skill. It was going to hit him no matter what. This thing can't be dodged. Han Xiao's eyes narrowed. He fired a cannon, but the white ball of light was like an illusion. The cannon went right through it. Since there was no way to dodge, Han Xiao simply put up multiple layers of psionic shields. The Mountain Ape mechanical suit's arm turned into an armored shield and faced it in the opposite direction. However, the layers of defense could not touch the white ball of light at all. The ball of light went right through, hit Han Xiao's body, and then disappeared. Han Xiao touched his body. He did not seem to be injured. "What is this?" "Ugh." A sharp pain suddenly exploded in his brain. A combat notification popped up on the interface. "You have been hit by Cisco's psychic parasitic toxin. You have received 14,860 mental damage. You have entered split personality state. Duration unknown. You have entered soul poison state. Duration unknown. You have entered sensory misdirection state. Duration unknown. You have entered parasitic mind state. Duration unknown. You have entered hallucination state. Duration unknown. Han Xiao clenched his teeth and stared at the notification on the interface. What shocked him the most was the attacker. Cisco, the only beyond grade A in the Shattered Star Ring that he had never fought before. Psychic. Chapter 718. There were 4 well-known beyond grade as in the Shattered Star Ring: Tyrant, Heber, Dragon Emperor, Ames, and Magus Austin. Han Xiao had more or less interacted with the 3 of them, but he had never even seen the last beyond grade star pupil Cisco. Cisco's territory was located in a star cluster at the edge of the Shattered Star Ring. Han Xiao had attended one of the Tyrant's parties, and only Cisco was not there. Cisco was born in a star system civilization and was now the supreme leader of this civilization. He led his people to develop quietly in his territory and did not expand or cause trouble. He was even more low-key than Austin. Could it be that this guy has also secretly sided with the Red Empire? Under the mechanical suit's helmet, Han Zhao's expression was unsettled. In his previous life, Cisco did not participate in the Secret War in version 3.0. He could only attribute the current situation to his influence on the world. Although he had never seen Cisco before, Han Xiao remembered the information from his previous life. Cisco was not a humanoid creature. It was said that his genes had reverted back to their ancestors and that he had a weak connection with a certain god from another dimension in the Arcane Church. He was extremely talented and had the ability to activate and materialize psychic energy. The attack that he had taken was a psychic attack from Cisco that had been stored in some way. It was not Cisco himself, so the damage was not high. What gave him a headache was a bunch of negative statuses that lasted for an unknown period of time. Han Xiao was also not sure if this sneak attack was ordered by Cisco or if the enemy had obtained this item through some means and Cisco did not know about it. These thoughts flashed through Han Xiao's mind, and he did not have the energy to continue thinking. The negative statuses started to take effect, and his mind became noisy. The scenes in front of him overlapped like countless mirrors placed at opposite angles, causing him to hallucinate. A sense of weakness rose from the depths of his mind. It was like he was extremely tired but could not sleep. Now, the Bloodshed Land knows that calamity grades are no threat to me, so they can only use beyond grade A methods to deal with me. Suppressing the chaos in his mind, Han Xiao clenched his teeth and waved his hand. The Mech Legion followed the orders and intensified their attacks on Hardaway. At the same time, the mechanical army began to enter the battlefield en masse, destroying the enemy battleships and increasing the speed of their advance. Han Xiao no longer cared about the command to stall for time. He was prepared to take down the hyperdrive base station as soon as possible in this battle and deal with the debuffs on his body as soon as possible. Hardaway was a little stunned. The white ball of light was a telekinesis attack. There was no direct indication of its power, so he did not know what damage Han Xiao had suffered. Even a beyond grade, a seed like him could not tell, let alone the others on the battlefield. Only Han Xiao himself knew what had happened. "Jode, what on earth is that thing?" Hardaway's expression didn't look too good. He didn't like to scheme against worthy opponents. "That's confidential." Jode was dissatisfied with Hardaway, but he was too lazy to say more. Hardaway was only a cooperative partner and was not loyal to the Bloodshed Land. He did not treat Hardaway as someone he could trust. Hardaway suppressed his anger, and while dealing with the Mech Legion's attacks, he observed Han Xiao in the distance. He doesn't seem to be affected. What kind of damage did that white ball of light do to him? Jode sneered and did not intend to explain. After 10 years of fighting, the Bloodshed Land had accumulated a large amount of intelligence on their battle with Han Xiao. Compared to his strong physical vitality, Black Star's mental strength was his weakness. This was something that could not be concealed, and most organizations could guess. However, Han Xiao was only relatively weak in this aspect, and it was not an absolute weakness. His vitality was still very strong, In an ordinary grade, a psychic or psionic mage would not be his match. However, if it was a beyond grade A psychic, it would be a different story. This ball of psychic poison that came from Cisco was something that Jode had obtained with great difficulty. His inspiration came from the ES God doppelganger that the Darkstar leader had summoned 7 years ago, with the goal of weakening Han Shao. Because the tyrant had been looking forward to Blackstar becoming a beyond grade A super, Jode had followed Heber's orders and did not use this psychic poison on Han Shao, silently waiting for him to improve. However, not long ago, the tyrant had personally told him that it was almost impossible for Blackstar to become a beyond grade A super in the remaining 2 to 3 years of the war. The tyrant's plan was going to fail, so Jode felt that there was no need to let Blackstar go, which was not against Heber's wishes. Since Blackstar could not become a beyond grade A super, the tyrant would only take action after the war was over due to the rules of the war. Thus, Jode decided to think of a way himself and use Cisco's psychic poison to weaken Blackstar, reducing his strength and reducing the pressure on the high-level combatants on his side. This mentality was similar to wanting to hold a stock with great potential for a long time, but the stock's growth had stagnated, and there was even a trend of decline. Cisco's psychic poison was very well hidden, and the source could not be seen. Jode estimated that Blackstar did not even know who had poisoned him. "You've completed your mission. Find a chance to retreat," Jord calmed himself down and said casually before ending the call. He was already very satisfied that Blackstar had been poisoned this time. Hardaway was silent, and he was the only one left in the communication channel. After Blackstar was poisoned, he did not continue to harass him. He suddenly felt a sense of loneliness and wanted to retreat. He charged left and right on the battlefield, using the Bloodshed Land's fleet as a distraction. Relying on his indestructible body, he forcefully charged out of the Mech Legion's encirclement, snatched a spaceship, and quickly left the battlefield. Han Shao was already used to his escaping posture and knew that he would not be able to kill him with his current strength. Thus, he recalled the Mech Legion and turned back to deal with the high-level combatants of the enemy. The enemy Calamity grades all fled. The SS Eternity also entered the battlefield, and super-dense psionic energy annihilation rays shot out from the corners of its crystal, destroying all the spaceships in its path and leaving a blank area on the battlefield. Facing the unstoppable advance of Section 0, the Bloodshed Land changed their strategy and no longer fought to the death. They began to retreat while fighting. Seeing that the hyperdrive base station was about to fall, the Bloodshed Land directly blew up the base station and took the initiative to cut off the connection between the various planetary strongholds, not leaving it for the enemy. After losing the fast wormhole passage, the other planetary strongholds became independent, and the fleets of the strongholds also began to retreat, abandoning the Kant star system to preserve their strength. Not long after, all the Bloodshed Land troops retreated, and Section 0's large-scale counterattack was victorious. All the enemy forces in the Kant star system were chased away. The Bloodshed Land's base in the Kant star system had been reduced from 5 to 4, which meant that the Bloodshed Land's base in the Kant star system was not stable. If it were the West Wind, Kaya, and Chida star systems that had been occupied for a long time, it would not have been so easy to chase away the enemy. Even so, this was a rare victory, and Section 0 was encouraged. Purple Crystal was also overjoyed when they received the news of the victory. The player's mission was also completed, and the results of the victory increased the mission rating, increasing the rewards. In a certain planetary stronghold that had been occupied by Section 0, black smoke billowed, and charred corpses littered the ground. The soldiers cleaning the battlefield passed through the messy battlefield and collected the spoils of war. There were quite a number of players mixed in with the soldiers cleaning the battlefield, picking and choosing as if they were picking up trash. The harvest this time is not bad. If we dismantle these broken pieces of equipment into materials, we should be able to sell them for 1 or 2,000 anus. Mad Blade picked up a broken high-tech mechanical warhammer and threw it into the floating loot box. He was in a good mood. The members of the Rivervale team were also collecting spoils of war and chatting in groups of 2s and 3s. The vice captain, Evil Sword, picked up a broken blaster, curled his lips, and threw it aside. He casually asked, "Captain, how much experience do you have now?" "Let me see." Mad Blade glanced at the interface. "It's about time for my promotion," because they had to participate in the Pro League at the end of version 2.0. They did not have much experience left. Their levels were not the highest at the start of the version, and many of them had not even reached level 100 for their promotion. "You're leveling up so fast," Evil Sword said enviously. "I'm still lacking experience. I killed more enemies than you, and my mission rating is higher than yours." "Of course, you're not leveling up as fast as me," Mad Blade said proudly. Evil Sword curled his lips. "Forget it, I'm not going to compete with you. I'll spend some experience to learn some high-end knowledge and suppress my level." "What's the point of suppressing your level? You should reach grade B after reaching level 100. Who knows, there might be an experience penalty for killing grade C monsters after reaching grade B. Anyway, with you as an example, it's better for me to wait and see." Evil Sword chuckled. "Up to you, coward. You're going to level up sooner or later anyway." Mad Blade rolled his eyes. On the other side of the battlefield, Hateful Sky was also cleaning the battlefield with a few of his friends and chatting. "This battle is finally over. Let's find some time to go to another star system to accept the Bloodshed Lands recruitment order," Hateful Sky said. Hateful Sky said. During the battle, there was no chance for them to join the enemy's faction. Now that the battle was over and they could move freely, Hateful Sky decided to take action. "There seems to be a 50% discount now. I feel that we should enjoy one last wave of benefits before we change factions. We'll return to the Black Star Corps headquarters and spend all our earnings before joining the Bloodshed Land," someone said. Hateful Sky nodded. "That works too. It's just that our main storyline rating from this battle will probably be erased and replaced with the Clint faction's main storyline mission," someone said regretfully. "That can't be helped." Hateful Sky shook his head. "However, at least we got the reward from this battle. Compared to the Clint faction's hidden storyline, this loss is nothing." Everyone nodded. At the same time, in another stronghold, Summer Night Flower was also thinking about this problem. After this mission is over, there should be people joining Clint. At that time, we can verify that my deduction is correct. "Clint is the best choice," Summer Night Flower muttered to himself. Summer Night Flower muttered to himself. He believed in his own speculation and was looking forward to switching sides. Most of the troops were cleaning up the battlefield. Han Shao let her lose, and the others take care of the post-battle issues while he locked himself in the training room. In the room, Han Zhao's face was pale. He closed his eyes and focused on experiencing the negative status of his body. After a long time, he opened his eyes with a serious expression. The problem was very troublesome. Soul poison reduced all his attributes by 20% and increased his stamina and energy consumption by 15%. He needed to spend more energy to use his skills. Sensory misdirection reduced his hit rate, critical rate, and dodge ability. Whisper illusion continued to disturb his mind. Strange voices kept whispering in his mind, making it difficult for him to maintain his calm and rational state. Split personality was the most dangerous as it allowed him to give birth to other secondary personalities. Parasitic mind allowed the psychokinesis poison to live in his mind. Every time he expended energy, a portion of his energy would be absorbed by the psychokinesis poison and used to nourish the weak secondary personalities. This allowed the secondary personalities to become stronger and fight for control of the body. If the control of the body was snatched away, the interface would say that he would enter the chaos state and would not be able to differentiate between friend and foe. However, Han Shao knew that the actual effect will be more complicated for him. It would not be as simple as entering the chaos state. Cisco. I hate psychics. Han Shao frowned and rubbed his temples. The secondary personality seemed to be very weak now, and he could not feel its existence. However, every time he fought in the future, the secondary personality would grow stronger. Could it be that the goal of Bloodshed Land is to restrict my actions so that I will not dare to fight casually? Han Xiao shook his head helplessly. Even if he was prepared for the attacks of a beyond grade A psychic, he would still be hit. It seemed like he had to put everything else aside and think of a way to deal with these negative statuses first. Han Xiao sighed. The duration is unknown. It probably won't disappear on its own. How should I get rid of it? He endured the mental fatigue and thought to himself. The simplest way was to ask Cisco's main body for help. However, he did not know whether Cisco was friend or foe, and he would be walking right into a trap. The second way was to ask Austin for help. This was something he could consider. The information on the interface was not complete. Han Xiao wanted to take a look at the details of the psychic toxin, but his profession was very materialistic, and he could not give himself a checkup. He could only summon Lagi and Fu Ding. You were ambushed by a beyond grade A psychic? Fu Ding and Lagi came to the room. After hearing Han Xiao's explanation, they were both shocked. Han Xiao rubbed his brows and sighed. It's impossible to guard against it. I did not expect to encounter Cisco. Fu Ding, help me check how bad the situation is. Fu Ding became serious. He reached out his hands and pressed them behind Han Xiao's ears. He then closed his eyes and sent his psychic energy into Han Xiao's brain. Han Xiao could feel Fu Ding's psychic energy reaching in. Buzz! All of a sudden, the scene in front of his eyes changed, showing the scene in his own brain. This was the vision shared by Fu Ding. The middle brain was a white world. Han Xiao and Fu Ding both existed in the form of light figures, looking down at the mental brain. At this time, 1/10 of the area was filled with purplish-black fog. The fog tried to condense into a human figure from time to time, but it failed every time. This is the psychic toxin that has parasitized your mental brain. Fu Ding's tone was serious. It will continuously absorb your energy and expand on its own. When it expands to 30% of the area, your subpersonality will have its own consciousness and start fighting for the body. Han Zhao's expression was ugly. Can you remove this psychic toxin? Fu Ding shook his head helplessly. This is a mass of psychic energy from a beyond grade A psychic. It's extremely corrosive and difficult to remove. Even my psychic energy will be devoured by it. Sorry, at this time, Lagi's spiritual body also squeezed in and appeared beside the two of them. He glanced at them before patting Han Zhao's shoulder. You're hopeless. Pass the position of army commander to me. I will inherit your career. Chapter 719. Psychic poison sounded quite serious. Although Han Xiao felt that it was troublesome, he did not panic. He had always believed that there were more ways than difficulties. You can't get rid of the poison either? Han Xiao asked Lagi. The most I can do is inscribe a spiritual defense rune formation on your body to slow down the corrosion of the psychic poison. Lagi sighed. However, none of these methods can cure you. It was indeed a mistake for me to choose to become a mage. Fu Ding interrupted. I can also help you strengthen your spiritual barrier and suppress the psychic poison. As for completely getting rid of it, we can't do that. You'll have to think of another way. Fu Ding's talent was the highest in the army, and he had entered the calamity grade earlier than Sylvia. However, his position in the army was similar to a guest, and he did not have a specific position. Then help me suppress the psychic poison first. I'll think of other ways. Han Xiaoxin relaxed. As long as he was not completely helpless, it would be easy to deal with. The psychic energy of a beyond grade A was very strong, but a calamity grade super could still defend against it to a certain extent. Fu Ding's spiritual body shone brightly, and an endless stream of psychic energy surged out like a tide, wrapping around Han Zhao's mental world. Countless hexagonal structures appeared on his spiritual barrier. Very soon, the activity of the psychic poison decreased significantly, and the purplish-black fog showed a certain degree of inertia. Han Xiao felt refreshed, and the feeling of weakness and mental disturbance lessened significantly. The attribute reduction of soul poisoning was reduced from 20% to 14%, and the negative effects of whisper hallucination and sensory misdirection were also significantly weakened. The rune formation needs to be inscribed on your body. Let's go out first. Lagi's spiritual body exited Han Zhao's mental world chat room. Han Xiao and Fu Ding also retracted their spiritual bodies, and their senses returned to the outside world. Han Zhao's vision changed, and he returned to the training room of the spaceship. Fu Ding retracted his finger and walked to the side. Lagi walked over, and with a flip of his hand, an emerald-green crystal wand the length of an arm appeared. At the end of the wand, bright magic radiance flickered, emitting bits of light. With a wave of his hand, a dozen or so thick spell books appeared in front of him. The pages flipped automatically, making rustling sounds. As Lagi flipped through the book, pages filled with all kinds of magic languages would fall off from time to time and surround him. These were the records of magic circles that Lagi wanted to engrave for Han Xiao after searching through the magic books. He took them out for reference. Take off your shirt. I want to draw a formation on your body. Han Xiao unbuttoned his shirt, revealing his muscular upper body. His tight abdominal muscles and firm back muscles gave off a sense of strength, as well as a sense of streamlined beauty. He was not as muscular as a pugilist, but he was strong to the point of perfection. The ability golden ratio body that he had drawn allowed his figure to be like a work of art. Go ahead. Han Xiao nodded. Raven channeled his magic power, and his eyes glowed. Using his wand as a brush and his magic power as paint, he drew a magic circle on Han Zhao's body. The cold magic power flowed through his body, accompanied by bursts of stinging pain and itchiness. It was quite similar to the feeling of a tattoo. After drawing for about 10 minutes, Lagi exhaled and spat out a cloud of magic aura. The light in his eyes gradually faded. For a great mage like him, using 10 minutes to engrave a set of enchantments was already extremely serious. Lagi took a few steps back and sized up Han Xiao. He sighed and said, "Although I don't know if it will be useful, my drawing is really beautiful." Han Xiao lowered his head and observed. At this moment, his upper body was already covered with extremely complicated runes. They were like tattoos that could not be erased. His left chest muscles were covered with a blue-gold circular magic circle. His abdomen was covered with many irregular magic circles that were arranged like constellations. They were connected together by chain-like runes. His arms were covered with runes, as if they were chains wrapping around his arms. His back was also covered with magic circles. With his spine as the trunk, the magic circles extended out like dense bushes and fruits. Other than his face and head, Han Zhao's upper body was covered with runes that were flickering. The frequency of the runes was like breathing. I used a portable enchantment technique. With your body as the foundation, I engraved runes on it. It will automatically absorb the wandering magic elements in the outside world to replenish its energy and maintain its operation. Portable enchantment was an important technique in the enchantment class. It was used to enchant living beings and strengthen certain qualities of the other party. Some magic civilizations would use this method to increase the combat power of their soldiers. Some experts would also enchant their own bodies and solidify certain spells. Han Xiao was no stranger to this type of enchantment. In his previous life, there were mages who specialized in this business. Players could get the service as long as they spent money. This was also an important business for mages to earn money, just like how mechanics sold their products. Han Xiao touched his arm curiously. His fingertips could clearly feel the runes. Even with his experience, he felt that the enchantment on his body was extremely complicated. The limitation of a portable enchantment is the strength of the person being enchanted. The more enchantments there are, the greater the burden. Luckily, your body is very tough, so I engraved a large number of runes on you, Lagi said. Lagi continued. The Holy Emperor's protection, the White Magic Ancestors' embrace, Lei Erbi's autism, and 5 other types of mental defense arrays. There are also the 13 Rings secret technique alchemy array that stabilizes the mind, the mind furnace that increases the mind, and so on. The effect is not bad. I feel much better. With the various illusions suppressed, Han Zhao's mind became much clearer. Looking at the interface, the various negative statuses were weakened once again. The soul poison, S reduction of all attributes was reduced to 5%. The effect was already very small. On the interface, the effects of these portable enchantments were displayed. Most of them increased the value of his psychic resistance. Due to the increase in the base value, the bonus effect of his advanced mental resilience also increased. By the way, I also engraved a psychic detection rune array for you. Lagi pointed at a small rune array on Han Zhao's chest. As long as you focus your consciousness on it, you will be able to enter the mental region on your own. You don't need our help. I feel that you might need this ability to observe the corrosion of the psychic poison. That's practical. Han Zhao was overjoyed. The mechanic class was more materialistic and did not have any psychic abilities. They could not detect the mental region on their own, so he could not ask for help every time. With this enchantment, he would be able to enter his mental world at any time. He tested it out, and his vision instantly changed. His spiritual body entered his mental region alone. At this time, in his mental region, there were layers of barriers blocking the psychic poison. The area of the poison was suppressed and reduced from 10% to 6%. These methods can only suppress it. It seems like I'll still need the help of a beyond grade A to get rid of the poison. Han Zhao thought. There was no need to mention Cisco. He did not know whether he was friend or foe. Furthermore, the two of them did not have much of a relationship, so Han Zhao did not plan to look for him. It was more convenient to ask Austin for help. Although Austin was not a professional psychic, the mage class and the psychic class both belonged to the mystic class. Han Zhao left the mental world and took out his communicator. After thinking for a while, he put on his clothes before contacting Austin. Black Star. The childlike Austin appeared in the virtual screen with a curious expression. We haven't contacted each other for a few years. Why are you looking for me? Your Excellency Magus, I hope to receive your help. Han Zhao nodded and explained. You actually got hit by Cisco's psychic attack. You're very unlucky. Austin smiled. All right, come and find me. I haven't seen Cisco in a long time. Let me see how much he's improved. Of the four beyond grade as in the Shattered Star Ring, Heber was domineering, Ames was willful, and Cisco was cold. Only Austin was kind and nice. Upon hearing Han Zhao's request, he agreed immediately. After hanging up, Han Zhao heaved a sigh of relief. He turned to look at Lagi and asked, Do you want to follow me to Austin's territory? Lagi shook his head. Since he had come out, he did not want to go back. All right, then you'll be in charge of the Black Star Corps and cooperate with Haluz and Sylvia to deal with the aftermath of this battle. I'll be leaving for a while. Right now, only the two of you know about my current situation in the army, Han Zhao said seriously. Don't tell anyone else. Even Jode did not know the exact effects of the psychic poison on him. Han Zhao planned to keep the news a secret, not wanting to expose his temporary weakness. Fu Ding, follow me for now, Han Zhao said. With Fu Ding by his side, he could use the advanced luck glow. Furthermore, if the psychic poison mutated, Fu Ding would be able to help him to a certain extent. Most importantly, fighting personally would cause his energy to become nutrients for the psychic poison. Thus, he had to bring some fighters with him. Fu Ding was now a grade psychic, so his combat strength was reliable. You're in trouble now, so of course I'll be by your side. Fu Ding smiled warmly, and his handsome face seemed to be emitting radiance. Please retract your god power and stop using charm. Han Zhao felt a headache coming on. After the counterattack battle ended, Section 0 left some troops to guard the Constar system border and set up a blockade to prevent Bloodshed Land from making a comeback. The other participating organizations also returned with a bountiful harvest. The 1 million or so players who participated in the battle were satisfied and returned with the team. Han Zhao took Fiden and another fighter, Marion, and left the main group, heading toward the hidden Red Robe Abbey in Austin. The faction interface allowed him to issue faction missions remotely, and all the necessary items were placed in the faction store. Han Zhao did not need to be by the player's side all the time. The players had earned a lot this time, And with the 50% discount not over yet, there would always be people spending money in the army. Thus, Han Xiao did not need to worry for the time being. Furthermore, after this battle, there would not be any large-scale military operations for a while, so he had enough free time to deal with the problem of the psychic poison. The hidden Red Robe Abbey was located in another star cluster, and it was quite far away. Han Xiao and the other two set off on their journey. At the same time, on planet Heber, the Bloodshed Land headquarters had been dealt with. The command center was calculating the losses of this defeat. Jord listened to his subordinate's report. The losses were not small, but he was all smiles and was not angry at all. Section 0 had sent out all their forces, so it was normal for them to be expelled. However, the biggest result this time was that they had successfully ambushed Black Star, and Jode was very satisfied with this result. Black Star was just one person, but he possessed overwhelming strength at the high-level combatants level. In the past 10 years, Bloodshed Land had lost hundreds of Calamity-grade supers to Black Star. Even with an entire star cluster as a reserve, this was not a small number. Heber's heart was as hard as steel, and he did not care about the losses. However, Jode cannot. He was a meticulous butler, and he was more worried about the loss of high-level combatants than anyone else. If not for the fact that Heber wanted to rear pigs, Jode would not have dared to let Han Xiao continue to be active in the war. He had used so many methods and still failed to kill Black Star. Even if Black Star had been ambushed, Jode did not feel that he could threaten his life. Thus, he did not plan to carry out any follow-up assassinations. He would leave Black Star for His Excellency Tyrant to deal with. Jode was in a good mood. He was already very satisfied with being able to weaken Black Star. Although he did not know what kind of injuries Black Star had suffered, Jode secretly prayed for the best outcome. He hoped that Black Star would not be able to continue participating in the battle and that Purple Crystal would not be able to use this trump card. Without Black Star, the high-level combatants of Bloodshed Land would have the qualifications to be arrogant. In a certain star system in the Colton star cluster, Floating Dragon Island was slowly drifting in the universe. Compared to 7 years ago, the terrain of Floating Dragon Island had changed significantly. There were now 3 floating islands, 1 big and 2 small. The biggest island was the original floating island, and it was now the main island. The other 2 small floating islands were like satellites surrounding the main island. These were the 2 new sub-islands, where Floating Dragon's armed forces were stationed. With the support of the Black Star Corps, Vilna had used 7 years to expand Floating Dragon's second field team to a rather large scale. Even the poor of the main island could not fit them. The 2 sub-islands were military camps. They were the land that Aesop had asked Ames to dig out from the surface of the planet using her force field. After 7 years of development, Floating Dragon also had a new look. At this moment, Ames, Aesop, Vilna, and Ginny were all gathered at the port of Floating Dragon's main island. All the famous members of Floating Dragon were there. A brand new small dark red spaceship was docked at the port. Hela and Aurora carried their luggage and stood in front of everyone. The 2 of them still had the same temperament, but they were much more mature than 7 years ago. The 2 of them were wearing different styles of battlesuits. Hela's suit was black and red, and Aurora's was white with gold edges. "Are you really not going to consider staying and helping me?" Vilna asked with a regretful expression. Now that the Black Star Corps was close to independence, the second armed force led by Vilna was Floating Dragon's exclusive fleet. She was the fleet commander, and there were many elites under her command. She had worked for Floating Dragon for 7 years and had built a deep relationship with the officers of Floating Dragon. She was also quite close with Hela and Aurora. Today was the day that Hela and Aurora would leave Floating Dragon. After training with the Dragon Emperor for more than 10 years, Hela finally decided to leave. Vilna had asked the 2 sisters to stay and become her right-hand men more than once, but the 2 of them had already made up their minds. "Sorry, Sister Vilna. We have made an agreement with Uncle Black Star a long time ago. We will definitely go and find him." Aurora had an apologetic expression. Vilna sighed. The Black Star Corps had helped her a lot, and Hela and Black Star had a deep bond. She did not want to keep poaching them. Jenny snorted and said, I have already transferred 200,000 anas into your account, which should be enough for your journey. Black Star is the one with the most money. When you join him, you won't need me to give you money anymore. Thank you, Sister Jenny. Aurora thanked her politely. Humph. Jenny turned her head away. The two of them insisted on joining the Black Star Corps, which made her very depressed. Will Sander chuckled. When you see Black Star, remember to say hello for me. Okay. Aurora nodded. By the way, say hello for me too. Floating Dragon's logistics manager, Higher, who was used to being transparent, also spoke. Got it. Aurora shrunk her neck. After more than 10 years together, Higher's hideous appearance still made her a little scared. Aesop shook his head and said, I have peeped into your future. I don't know if it is the right thing to ask you to find Black Star. Fate is always in an uncertain state and can change at any time. This is what you told us. Aurora blinked her big eyes and said crisply. Aesop sighed again and again, mumbling words like Black Star, death, war, and so on. In the end, Hela and Hela's eyes gathered on Ames. Ames smiled faintly. Her red lips moved slightly, and her voice was very soft. Be careful on the way. Aurora smiled sweetly. I know, teacher. Hela, who had been expressionless and silent all this time, had a look of respect in her eyes. She nodded and bowed. Thank you very much for teaching me for more than 10 years. A kind look flashed across Ames' eyes. She nodded and did not say anything else. Hela straightened up and glanced at her friends of more than 10 years. She pulled Aurora, who looked back every 3 steps, turned around, and stepped onto the gangway of the small, dark red spaceship. They walked into the cabin and closed the cabin door. Under the gaze of Ames and the others, the spaceship slowly rose into the sky, turned into a ray of light, and disappeared on the other side of the planet. Ames looked in the direction of the spaceship with her hands behind her back and softly muttered to herself, So this is what it feels like to be a teacher. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.